Hey, are you ever going to start this podcast you've been talking about for like forever?
Do you think that anyone will actually want to listen to something like this?
What is your plan for an introduction?
Are you sure you want to talk about these topics? People usually disagree.
3 hours? Are you crazy?
Do you think you're some kind of expert or something?
Are you planning to have an intro song?
What if a bunch of people get really mad and hate you over this?
Do you even know how to make a podcast?
Are you just doing this because you like to argue with people?
Don't let this be just one more thing that you talk about doing, but never actually do.
Wouldn't it be better to do just one episode for each topic?
Stop trying to change people's opinions. Just live your own life.
Dude, people are never going to agree. Just let it go.
Is this going to be a long intro? Because if it is, I'm bored already.
Okay, the rant today is a short but serious one, and it's addressed to women, which usually gets me in some trouble. But hey, this needs to be said. Women, when taking selfies, stop making what has come to be known as the duck face. Seriously, you look ridiculous, and everyone is laughing at you. And yes, even you women who think to yourself, not me, I look good when I make that face. No, you don't. You look just as ridiculous as all the women that you think look ridiculous when scrolling social media. You are not the exception. Stop it. That is all. This week's episode has been a long time coming. I have a conversation with Justin Chamberlain, one of my best friends and one of the influential people involved in my life during the very early stages of my Christian walk. Justin and I waded through the murky waters of Bible translation and understanding. We learned how to discern the difference between false teachers and true biblical teachers. We even spent some time in the world's only true Bible-teaching cult together. We were also in a short-lived band together. And if you want to hear one of our songs, you can do so at the very end of this episode. Justin also has the most amazing, unique connection to music than anyone that I have ever met before, which you will find out for yourself as you listen to this episode. These days, Justin makes his home in the warm and sunny state of Idaho, so I don't get to see him as often as I would like. But it was great to get to talk with him for this episode, and I hope you will take away some good stuff from it. Lastly, even though he likes Yanni, please don't hold that against him. He is a cool guy, I promise. Topics discussed today: Indiana Jones music, having Tourette's, Soundgarden, Too Short, Two Live Crew, Enya, Yanni, The Fat Boys, Father MC, Snap, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Sir Mix-a-Lot, The Judgment Night soundtrack, Metallica, AC/DC, Regina Spektor, Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight, She and Him, Jack White, Ingrid Michaelson, The Beatles, Def Leppard, The Revivalists, Playing in a Band Together, Facebook Jail, Alcoholism, Tolerance, Profanity, Agendas, the 2024 election, Barbra Streisand, Feelings, the Golden Donut Fellowship, Capital Punishment, Love, Transgender Surgeries, Is Hell Eternal, Churchiness, Studying Greek, and Worship Services. Enjoy the conversation. Oh, man.
I got a big bladder.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, see, now there's something I didn't know about you.
Hey, there you go. Did you want to see it?
No, I'll pass, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. So how's it going, man?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Given everything is snowing today, so that sucks.
Oh, that sucks. You don't like? I thought you loved the cold.
What?
Isn't that what you used to say? You love the cold and you hate the heat?
No, I always like the heat, man. I got my
know,
power.
I'm messing with you. I know you're the opposite. You used to tell me that there's nothing worse you could think of than freezing to death. That would be the worst way to die.
Yeah, and I still feel that way. And now I'm doing it. Now I'm actually freezing to death.
Yeah. Well,
just a lot slower process than I thought.
You got to come back to the good old sunny Central Coast.
I know.
Yeah. So you guys got a lot of snow right now, or what?
No, in fact, we don't have much snow at all, but it's coming down pretty heavy. We're supposed to get 8 inches.
Ooh, so it just started.
Well, yeah, it's been going off and on all year. It's been a pretty mild year. Usually we have a ton of snow by now.
Okay. Oof.
Yeah.
I don't like the cold either. Remember, I used to be the opposite of you. Yeah. And I would say, I hate the heat and I'll take the cold over the heat any day. Now I'm the opposite. Not that I'm not crazy like you. I'm not like, oh, it's 130 degrees. Let's go run a marathon, but I don't like, the cold is even worse. Like I can't even, like even getting out of a hot tub, because we have one of those backyard hot tubs. I can't even go in it in the wintertime. And we're talking about Santa Maria weather, which is like winter, which is like 50 degrees.
Yeah.
So it's like I get out of that thing and I wish I was dead. Like it's like instant, like I can't breathe. And it's like, it's terrible. So
yep, I understand completely. My mom's got a hot tub here, and they get in it, and they get out and it's 17 degrees out or less.
See,
I'm like, nope.
It has to be possible to die that way. It just really does.
It shaves years off your life for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to make your heart stop or something.
Yeah,
that's terrible. Ugh.
I can see your closet back there. That your clothing style hasn't changed any.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. On the right side here is all my wife's clothes. So yeah. My audience doesn't know about my cross dressing. So don't let that cat out of the bag.
Okay, I surely won't. Are you changing your pronouns yet?
No, not yet. I don't want to be too obvious. That would be too obvious.
Yeah.
So,
how about you? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. The reason I'm a little bit late here is because my blender went on the fritz when I was making my chai for my podcast, and I can't talk to people without my chai. It's like you ever watch Big Bang Theory?
No.
Oh, it was one of the characters in there for the first 2-3 seasons. He can't talk to women unless he has some kind of alcohol, like he has to drink a beer or he has to drink, so he can talk to women. So that's the way it is with chai, except not just women, it's with men and women. I can't talk to them without my chai. I just feel, it's just inadequate.
No talking sans chai.
Right. Exactly. So
the Flood used to have a really good chai blend. They had 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
One was a liquid, one was a powder.
Powder's the best.
Huh?
The powder's better, I think.
The powder was way better. And so I ended up eliminating the liquid at the time.
Okay.
Because it was just night and day, and people who said they knew where the best chai was always liked the Flood's better when they tried it.
Okay. Well, they must have switched it around because the chai they got now is no good.
Yeah, they probably went back to the liquid was so much cheaper that I had to fight that battle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then you left, and then they just fell apart, man.
That's right.
Way to go, dude.
More people will gain their salvation if he's at the right chai.
Exactly. See, you get it.
Yes.
All right, man. Well, this is gonna be fun. I've been looking forward to this one. This is,
okay.
We've known each other a long time. You know things about me that no one else knows, and vice versa, probably.
Yes, that's true. Very true.
Hopefully, we won't share too many of those things with the rest of the world during this podcast.
Yeah. Well, everything's fair game with me. So,
all right. Well, let's jump in. You ready?
Okay.
Excited? You all just gung ho, ready to rock?
That's what I live for, man.
All right, dude.
I'm so excited I can't stand it.
Awesome. That's why you're sitting down.
Yeah.
All right. So we're good and getting to music. Earliest memory. First time you remember thinking, that's the best thing ever. I want some more of that. That's fantastic.
Well, believe it or not, and I have a very diverse taste in music. My earliest musical memory was when we were walking. We had these little record players when we were kids. And, you could play the 45s or, the big ones.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any records. We were a poor family. And my brother and I were walking through a field, and it was in Washington. And we found all these albums. Somebody just thrown with the covers, just chucked them out into the field.
Dude,
so we
really?
must have found 30 albums. Yeah. And so this is back in the day when, the top names, just as Queen and all these other ones.
Okay. So we're talking like late 70s this is, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we started playing those, and my brother and I we had, swapping the records back and forth and playing them. And that was my earliest musical memory. It was just so fantastic to hear these different songs and different things.
Okay.
My brother Ryan would sit in the room and he'd listen to music, and he'd come grab me. I'd be outside. You got to hear this song. I'd run in there and listen to it. And we'd play these songs.
Yeah.
And then vice versa. I'd hear a song, and I'd go get him and we'd play it.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's so cool.
And we went from, 70s rock to disco duck, and we went through the gamut.
Okay. All right. That's cool, man.
Yeah. But my earliest 2 memories of music when I was affected by it was when I went and saw Indiana Jones at the theater with a kid I went to school with.
Which one?
The first one.
Raiders of the Lost Ark? Okay.
Yes. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Just not to date myself, but I saw all the Star Wars movies in theater.
Woo, boy. Yeah. Because
so
you
I
were
was back
born
when I used to
what?
play them for years after they were made. So
You were born 73, 74?
73.
73. Okay.
And Star Wars came out, but they played them back then. It was pre VCR tapes and stuff. So they played them for years after in the theaters.
Yeah.
So you could go watch Star Wars, 5 years after it came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, so Indiana Jones, I went with a friend of mine. First time I went to a movie without my parents, it was a friend and his dad. And that family, unbeknownst to me at the time, after the movie, they wanted to discuss the movie. So he asked his son, what was your favorite part of the movie? And he talked about whatever scene was his favorite part. And he asked me, he goes, what was your favorite part? I said, man, it was the music.
Oh, really?
Da, 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 came on screen. I had chills. I was almost in tears.
Wow.
They both looked at me and they're like, what an idiot. The whole movie, and you walk away liking the music?
Yeah. But that's so totally you, though. Like, I mean, that's a good snapshot of who you are. I mean, because it's for as long as I've known you, you've always been like that. Like you have like this connection with music that I don't. I mean, you know me, I love music, but you have like this weird connection to it, like where, like from an early age, even like you're just, I don't know, you're different in that way.
Yeah, well, but I would give you that same credit. You have a method of music that I don't have. So
that's probably true. Yeah, that's probably true. But yeah, I mean, for that song, that theme song to Indiana Jones, whenever I ride, which I think you and I probably rode this together at one point at Disneyland. We ride that ride at Disneyland, and you're going through. It's towards the end, and it's do 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 do, and I just feel like I'm Indiana, and I'm flying through there, getting rid of that boulder, and it really it moves me. It does something to me.
Yeah. Me too.
I don't think I saw any of the Indiana Jones films in the theater.
Okay.
Ever. I don't think. I did see Return of the Jedi in the theater. I think that might have been my very first movie in the theater ever.
Oh, wow.
I remember my dad took me because that came out, what, 82? 83?
You're asking the wrong person.
I think it was about 80 because I was about 5 or 6 years old, I think, when that came out in theaters. So, so that's John Williams. Yeah, John Williams did the Indiana Jones song. He did the Star Wars theme. He did E.T. Yep. Like all the good movie themes, especially from like the 80s and early 90s, was all him. Yeah. So, okay, that's really cool, man.
On that same vein, it couldn't have been more than a month later. I went to a high school basketball game. With my cousins. They were from Montana and they were over. So we went and we saw a high school basketball game. I'd never been. And this is when they still had the high school band on the bleachers in the crowd.
Okay.
I didn't know that, and so next thing you know, they, during halftime or whatever when they play, this band just lit up. And man, I had to go crawl into the bleachers and cry because I was so moved by the music and the live performance of music. Yeah. I literally went and hid because I didn't want anybody to see me crying. I just bawled my eyes out. It was so powerful.
But it was like happy tears. It was like,
it was happy tears. Yeah. It was just, I was so moved by this. I never heard live music like that before.
Yeah.
It was just incredible.
Wow. Dude, I've never heard these stories before. This is awesome. But I mean, it fits. Like I said, I'm hearing it and it fits the you that I know. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't surprise me at all to hear you say that, even though I've never heard the story. That's awesome.
Right.
And how old were you at that basketball game?
What's that?
How old were you at that basketball game?
Boy, I had to have been probably 7 at that point.
Okay.
So, and just to warn your listeners and yourself, of course, as you know, I have Tourette syndrome, so you may have a lot of sniffing and other noises that you don't want to have to edit out the whole time. So you may want that disclaimer.
Yeah.
This guy's
now that you put that in there, I don't have to edit anything out now. See?
Exactly. He's not coked up, ladies and gentlemen. He's just
yeah. Well, that's an interesting thing too, because you remember, I just for whatever reason, I just found that out. You had mentioned that a couple months back. I don't remember how it came up or what we were talking about, and I don't remember ever learning that you had Tourette's.
Yeah.
Like ever.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, because maybe I just assumed it was a given.
Yeah,
because it's been a lifelong struggle, controlling my vocabulary and things that just thoughts come out your mouth without thinking about it, and just
right.
It's been a lifelong struggle. So I'm surprised, being the level of friend that you are to me,
right?
That just never came up.
Yeah, Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine why it would unless I was be like, hey, why do you do that?
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, that's kind of my point. Like, I bet I never even noticed anything like that was off or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Oh man. All right. All right. So just before we go further with the music, we probably should have done this in the beginning. I just want to, what's a little background on when we met? Like I always like to ask people, like, what is your first recollection of when we met, especially if it's people I've known for a long time? Because I have mine, and it might differ from yours.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we met. I think you guys were standing in the foyer of Calvary when we came in. Okay. And I remember meeting you there, and then the coffee shop a few times. Okay. I think, and not when I was working in the coffee shop, but just in passing. Right. But as we kind of got more and more involved in the church at the time, we started getting invited to certain events. And I think maybe I met you on a camping trip at one time.
Yeah. See, that's my earliest memory.
Yeah.
I don't remember meeting you before that.
Yeah. I remember meeting you and Bethany in the foyer one time. And I think Tommy Thompson may have introduced us or. Okay. Oh, because you knew my mom. I think you knew my mom before you knew me, right? Because she was part of the New Believers class or something. I don't recall, because I don't remember going to the New Believers class. Okay. Yeah, I thought there was some story about that. Jessica was involved in. Maybe. Could be. Yeah. Okay. But that does ring a bell now that you mentioned it. So now, my limited brain capacity is now coming up with. Right. I think that's true, because now that you mentioned, I do remember the New Believers class, and the little booklet they gave us, and yeah. So now I think you're right about that. Okay. Now that you mentioned it. Yeah.
So my first memory is of the Lopez Lake camping trip with Calvary, and I don't even remember like officially actually meeting you there. I just remember you were the guy that was pushing all the kids on the rope. There was like one of those big ropes. Yeah, the rope swing thing. It was just like a rope hanging down. The kids would hang on. You'd launch them out there, and they just, wah, and of course my older two were young then, and they were having a blast, Elor and Aiden. And I remember you guys didn't have kids at the time, and it was just like, oh, there's this young couple who, doesn't, and I didn't have any idea. But the whole while, I was also at that time knew your mom pretty well, just because I would work in the office. She was the secretary, so she would be in there too. But I had it took me a while till I put those two things together and realized, okay, that's your mom, that's your son. Okay, I gotcha. Right. So, and all the parents at the Lopez camp trip were mortified that some ex-con was pushing their kids on a rope swing. Well, they probably didn't know you were an ex-con though. See? Oh yeah, it was pretty famous. Oh really? See, I didn't learn that until later. And I remember when I first heard that about you, both of you, I was just like floored. Like, you got to be kidding me. You just didn't seem. But I guess that's the new creation, right? That's the whole. That's exactly. That'd be a good topic for section 3. Right. Exactly. So, yeah. But, so I will say that after that, I do remember our first official kind of meeting conversation, which sparked this lifelong journey. Yes. Yep. At the Yamamoto barbecue or whatever it was. Yep. And I don't remember, what was it? It was the Great Commission. I'll never forget it. Oh, there it is. That's right. The Great Commission. And I was just fresh, barely learning certain things. So I was a firecracker back then. I was just popping off at the mouth, be like, oh yeah, you believe that? Well, guess what? Guess what the Bible really says? Well, but you didn't even approach it that way. Not in my mind. You approached it very, very frankly, but from a position of what it felt like understanding, but you asked questions more than making statements. Yeah, I'm a question asker. That's been my MO my whole life. That was the right way to do it, because you asked me a question and I'm like, I don't have a response to this. Right. And then I went down to a rabbit hole of Calvary. Yeah. But see, that's when I remember, that's when I knew that I liked you, is because most other Christians that I would talk to at that time, if I would say something like that, or I would ask a question, or I would question something, they wouldn't do the work and go home and look into it. And it was like a few weeks later, maybe even a month later, I got like an email from you or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I've been really thinking about this and I was looking into this. And I was like, okay, I like this guy.
Well, I mean, I was a new believer and I was just getting taught Calvary doctrine.
Right.
And
Right.
It was an eye opener for me and it actually, changed my life completely.
Yeah. Well, me too, man.
Yeah.
I've been on that same lifelong journey you've been, just trying to figure stuff out and,
Yep.
and still struggling to find people that are really that way. I still feel like I'm just kind of an outsider in a lot of ways when it comes to that, because I don't really line up kind of with the churchiness of church or the emotional aspect of it, or, you know what I mean? I'm more of I don't know. I'm just different in that way to a lot of people would criticize that and say, oh, you're just intellectual, or it's all about knowledge for you. Knowledge puffs up, right? Knowledge puffs up. It's like, that's the kind of stuff they always throw at me, but
yeah.
So
let alone Jesus said that, you die for your lack of knowledge.
Yeah. They push that one away because that one, that doesn't support their narrative. So,
Exactly.
But that's, I think what is something that you and I both came to that conclusion, I think, at some point, that it's very important to realize it's not just intellectualism. If you have just intellectualism, you're lost. But if you have just quote unquote spiritualism, you're also lost, right?
Yes.
You need both, and they correspond with each other if it's proper,
Correct. And I think the emotional spiritual side is harder to come out of than the intellectual side.
Yeah.
Because you don't always get warm and fuzzies when you're getting convicted by scripture.
Right.
You're learning the truth, but if you're doing the spiritual side of things, you're getting the warm and fuzzies when you need them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I hate warm and fuzzies.
And and the problem that I had early on, and I don't know, like if I speak for you, is that the more you learn on a level that we were learning, a level of arrogance kind of grew up in me.
Yeah.
And, I got very judgmental towards people who wouldn't hear it. And it got ugly. And so that makes them on the defensive, whether they know it or not, because whether I say it or not, they pick up on it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
And so that kind of, played a part in a lot of these people's responses, and still does, I think, to a certain degree.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I think you're right. I think depending on the person that you're talking to, it's going to make a big difference as far as how they respond. If they're the kind of person that is wanting truth or seeking truth, regardless of, even if it goes against their own beliefs, then they might respond more favorably to something like that, where the people are kind of like, don't bother me with the facts, my mind's made up kind of people, are just like, there's really nothing you can do there. So,
and right in between those two are the ones that, say they want to know the truth, but they only go and look for people who support what they believe.
Right.
They don't dig into it to, any opposing viewpoints.
Right. Right. It's like the Paul Washer thing where he's talking to the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they said, oh, we're seekers of truth also, or whatever. Right. And he's like, well, where are you seeking truth? Oh, the Watchtower, Awake. It's like, no, have you ever looked like outside of your little bubble for the truth? Oh, no. Well, then you're not a seeker of truth, right? Like, we can all pick a doctrine or a religious system to follow and just believe everything they say. But you gotta listen to other stuff to see if it's right or not. You just can't throw it out.
If you're not willing to be wrong, then you're not really looking to be right.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So I'll go back to the music. All right. So we talked about your first musical experiences, which were awesome. Like to have that kind of an emotional connection to the beauty of music at that early of an age. So we'll fast forward to now, and then we'll kind of backtrack a little bit. So just fast forward to now and think about, like, is there like a specific genre that I know you like all kinds of music, but is there kind of one standout that just it to you is the best? Like
that changes frequently, but right now I would say that the alt rock vibe is my favorite.
Okay.
Like Uncle, in the Revivalists.
Okay.
Graves.
Okay.
Things like that right now.
And did you say Uncle Cracker? Is that what you said?
No, Uncle Lucius.
Uncle Lucius. Okay. See, I never heard of that. Uncle Lucius.
Yeah, you know, I go down the rabbit hole and I find all these bands, and then my brother and my wife get on board with them and put them in their playlists.
Oh, really?
I'm the source.
You're the pioneer that finds them all.
Well, I just happened to, you know, it's the YouTube syndrome, I'd call it.
Okay.
Where you find the song that you like, or, you know, I'll hear a chord progression or something, and I'll plug it in, and then it leads to a band, to another band, to another band, to another song.
Okay.
So I'll dive down pretty deep, and then you start finding these obscure bands, and some of them get pretty popular.
Yeah.
Later in life. And some.
Now, does that bum you out? Does that bum you out when that happens?
It does when they change.
Okay. But what if they don't change their style?
What's that?
What if they don't change their style and they just?
It doesn't bum me out per se, but it's pretty rare to find.
Okay.
There's a lot of bands that I knew in the MySpace days, you know, that I had connected with, like Ryan Farish and One Direction, that were in MySpace times that would talk to you and everything, and then they get, you know, commercialized. Same style, some of the same songs, but they're just not the same people. It's not the same band.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you say One Direction? Did you say One Direction?
Yes. Oh no, One Republic. I'm sorry. One
okay.
Yeah.
That's the boy band. Yeah, the Harry Styles and. I say, not that I'm knocking that. I just didn't know that was your thing. So, you know.
Oh no, you know me. Teenage pop girl music is one of my faves. I've been the biggest constant my whole life, and everybody, especially being a musician, you can't admit that because they will string you up.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So, okay. So when you say alt rock though, like alt rock used to be like Pearl Jam and you know, some of the stuff from the early 90s.
The alternative vibe is now, you know, has evolved, but it's still the same kind of vein.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So I really like alternative.
So there's groups today that are putting out music that sounds very similar to the style of Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you name some good ones. Soundgarden's always been one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, dude.
Just the sound alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Let alone the garden.
Yeah. I haven't got to the garden yet. You're putting the flowers before the cart, man. Yeah. When I listen to music, I don't hear the song as a whole as much as most people do, I think. You know, I'm listening to chord progressions, I'm listening to the beat, I'm listening to all these layers and how they come to the song. Right. And then I hear the lyrics, and that's where it just, you know, Soundgarden to me is one of the greatest because they have these layers of sound. It's just
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
The writing was just phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. And Chris Cornell's just his vocal range was out of the park. I mean, it was just unreal what that guy could do. It's like, I mean, from the early, like, I think probably the first song I ever heard was Rusty Cage, you know, which is more of the high pitched kind of screamy kind of stuff that he would do. Not really screamy, but yelling, I guess you'd call it, kind of that high pitch. And then next thing you know, the Super Unknown album comes out with Black Hole Sun and Fell on Black Days. And he's more deeper. And I'm like, is this even the same singer? Like, what is this? Oh,
and it's almost deeper and a little bit darker. I'm like, this is. Really
cool. Yeah. Oh yeah. That Super Unknown album was, I think, there's a lot of dark songs on there lyrically too, as well, I think. But
right. And kind of a crossover album.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was and the weird thing is, like, everybody said Black Hole Sun's probably their most popular song, but it seems like the album after that is where they really started to get a lot of fame, I guess you could say. I don't know why that is, but which I don't remember. The last was Downward Spiral. No, or is that's 9 Inch Nails? Down on the Upside, I think it's called. The one after Super Unknown, I think, that had couple good jams on there, but yeah. So, I mean, so when that stuff started coming out, you were obviously a little older than me. Cause I think you got about 5 years on me. Are you 50 yet?
Yeah.
You are 50.
I am 50. I hit the half-century mark. Yep.
Do you get those free coffees at McDonald's now?
Only if I bring my walker. It doesn't work at the drive-thru because they don't let you do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So
too many tennis balls behind.
So you were an adult then when in the early 90s, like 91, 92.
Well, my graduation was 91, so
okay. So
I wouldn't call myself an adult by any stretch, but
but that was towards like, because I was like 8th grade, 9th grade when like Pearl Jam's 10, for example, came out. You know,
right. But I was still real heavy into hip hop and rap then.
Oh, okay.
And
really,
yeah, Too Short was my favorite by far.
Okay, me too. I grew up, as you know, I grew up loving Too Short.
Oh yeah, the Ghetto, Life is Too Short.
Yeah, that was the first album I heard was Life is Too Short, and back then we would all play Don't Fight the Feeling because that was like our first like, oh, listen to what he's saying.
Yeah,
it's like totally filthy and it's all about sex, and it's like it's just like I must have been like a 6th grader, I think, when I heard that for the first time or something. It's like real wholesome stuff there, but yeah. Okay. I don't think I ever knew that about the hip hop. So.
Oh yeah, man. I was Eazy-E, 2 Live Crew was my favorite, man. Just they were fantastic. Of course, foul as you could be, but
oh yeah, nasty as they want to be, I believe is what they said.
Yes, that's true. But I mean, the music behind what they did was fantastic. I mean, the lyrics or whatever, but
yeah,
musically they made some really great stuff. It's just distinctive to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I never really got too much into 2 Live Crew. I say I never really got too much into 2 Live Crew. I remember, Me So Horny, and I remember like some of the ones that they were getting banned for, and like all this. Because I mean, it was hard to not notice that because it was like on the news and
right.
And if I remember correctly, I might be wrong here, but I want to say that 2 Live Crew was the first album to ever feature a parental advisory sticker. But
I think so, because they were the lawsuit and everything. I think you're probably right.
Yeah, I think that was when, they all got involved with it. What's her name?
Yeah.
Whatever that lady, I forgot her name was. The Tipper Gore?
No, that was
no.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah, the FCC or whatever. The PMRC. I don't know. I'm probably way off here. But anyway, but 2 Live Crew always reminds me of Ghetto Boys. Do you remember Ghetto Boys?
I remember some of their stuff.
Well, they just had that one song that was popular was My Mind's Playing Tricks on Me.
Yeah, but they had some other stuff too, because I remember the video for Mind Playing Tricks on Me. And he's punching the concrete. It was pretty
yeah, exactly. The little midget guy.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure midget's no longer PC. Midget can't say midget.
Yeah.
The little person. He was a little person. I always, for some reason, I don't know why. I think it's because one of the rappers from Ghetto Boys looks like Luke from 2 Live Crew, I think is what it is. But but I was always more of a Ghetto Boys guy.
Okay.
All right. So like I said, we're going to go back. So we're talking about alt rock now, but like, so about what age would you say you started getting into like the hip hop stuff?
Oh, geez, that was so. I always liked pop music.
Okay.
And to this day, still love pop music. I mean, I listen to, and I've been to concerts where I was probably the only dude in there and probably the only human above the age of 20. Saw Avril Lavigne.
Oh, nice.
I was the only guy there.
That's awesome.
But I still dress like her.
Yeah. Well, you got to, man. You got to.
Oh yeah, I would say, probably 15, 16. I got into the hip hop and then the rap and all that.
Okay.
And then but all the while still listening to Enya and Yanni behind all that.
Yeah, without letting anybody know.
Correct.
Because you don't want to.
Especially back in that day, as you recall, you didn't listen to more than one genre of music.
Right. Exactly.
Who you were. I mean, you definitely were.
Right. Exactly. See, I never got it. I to this day I couldn't tell you a single Yanni song, but I know he's one of your favorites, and I know I think probably the only song I ever heard is the one you showed me. You sent me a video of him playing live or something. But Enya, I do really like, and I have liked for a long time because, as you know, my mom is a massage therapist.
Correct.
So that's one of the ones that she's always been kind of into the new age music because it's good for massage music, right? She's always been into that, and I remember really early. I must have been, I don't know how old I was when that came out, 10 or 11 maybe, when the Shepherd Moons album came out by Enya with Caribbean Blue and some of those other ones that were on there. And I remember we had that cassette tape and she would play it. We just play it on repeat in the car all the time. So I just grew up listening to that. And then years later she'd do like Only Time and, Only Time? Yeah, Only Time. And
Off the Paint the Sky with Stars album.
Yeah. Yeah. See, you'd know more about this than I would, because that's more your style. But I know they're both considered new age, but do you see Yanni as being that same style of music?
See, I wouldn't call Yanni new age in the slightest. I'd call him progressive instrumental.
Okay. Is it all instrumental?
Progressive instrumental.
Okay. But there's no singing in Yanni's music ever?
I think there's maybe one song that he does.
Okay.
But see, now Kitaro is very new age, but he has singing in some of his as well. And of course, Enya's all vocals.
Right.
So Yanni, I wouldn't call new age. I mean, I know they put him in that category for a while, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's funny because, as I'm starting to get into the rap and the hip hop stuff early on, I already had probably, 5 Yanni cassettes and, 3 Enyas.
And you would actually go into the store and buy these?
Oh yeah, you remember the record store up there in the five cities? Was it Boo Boo's?
Oh, Boo Boo's, yeah. Boo Boo Records used to be.
Avenue, huh?
I don't think it's there anymore, but yeah, it was on Grand Avenue. Yep.
Yeah. So
there used to be a Chinese place over there. There was a pizza place over there. Yeah. Okay, so you would walk in there and actually people would watch you purchasing this music.
Correct.
Wow, dude.
But I'd have to buy a backup. So I'd always buy, something. That was back, when the singles were getting real popular too. So I could go buy a single that, was really popular and then buy an cassette.
Okay. Yeah. And the singles then would come and they'd be one tape in that little cardboard sleeve thing.
Yeah, a little paper sleeve. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have like one song. You usually have the one song on one side, and then the other side wouldn't even usually have a second song. It would just have like
be like a remix.
Or something, or a radio edit or something,
Yeah, exactly.
of that same thing. The earliest time I remember that, and I think it's only because my friend actually stole it from the place in the mall, Musicland. Remember Musicland?
Yeah.
So we got into Musicland, and it was "I Want to Sex You Up" by Color Me Bad.
Oh yeah.
And I remember my friend had just put that in his pants or just his pocket or whatever, and just stole it. And I didn't even. Yeah, that's
for putting in your pants.
Right. Yeah, maybe he thought it was going to do something else. I don't know. Maybe it was well, this says this, so let's see. But yeah, I just remember
the instructions carefully.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just remember being totally in awe, because I didn't know he did that until we got way out of the store and he pulled it out and he was telling. I was like, "Dude, did you buy that?" He goes, "No." What? And I was kind of upset because I'm like, "Dude, you're gonna get me in trouble,"
Right.
Because my whole life I was always taught like, well, even if you're not doing anything wrong, if you're around people that are, you could get lumped into that, So
correct. But at least they're gonna assume you are.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right, so throw some more hip hop early guys at me. We had Two Live Crew, Eazy-E, Too Short. Got any other ones that were favorites back then?
I'm trying to think now. I mean, obviously all the NWA crew. Whoops.
Yeah.
Kick my mic stand.
Uh-oh.
Trying to think who else I used to listen to. I mean, obviously Heavy D, some of the more pop stuff.
Yeah. Kid and Play.
Kumo D. The Fat Boys. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. You ever go back and listen to that stuff now?
I do.
It's pretty terrible.
Some of it's timeless. Some of it's not.
I remember I used to love the Fat Boys. Like, dude, their Crushin' album was the coolest thing ever. But now I go back and listen to it and I go, dude, like, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's a different time maybe or whatever, but I listen to it now. I go, I don't know. I don't get it.
See, I still remember some of their chord progressions. So I go back and listen to Fat Boys for the chord progressions.
Okay.
And I also, when I was in high school, I had the big, 15-inch subs in the back of my car.
Oh, you were that guy.
I was that guy. And so the Fat Boys had a couple of songs on their cassette that weren't the radio friendly stuff.
Yeah.
They were real heavy bass. And so I'd play that in the parking lot with some friends and packed in my car.
Okay.
And I'll go back even now when I hook up a sound system or even do a sound check. I'll play some of their songs just for the low end frequency.
Okay. Do you know titles of those songs? Do you know which songs those were?
Oh, My Bicycle, I think, was one of them.
Okay.
Jelly Roll.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I don't remember which ones.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Okay. Yeah. I'll probably have you send me some of them to me later too.
Yeah, it'll come to me when we're done talking here.
Of course.
So bad. Yeah.
Of course it will. Did you ever see the movie that they did?
Yes.
Was it Disorderlies?
Yeah.
That was great, man.
Yeah.
So cool. Wow. What about I'm trying to think, there's some other ones. Like, what about Father MC? You remember Father MC?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he had a couple of good songs too.
Yeah, he sure did.
Treat Him Like You Want to Be Treated. And because I think that's one of the singles that I had. Like, I had a single, and that one did have 2 songs on it. It had the Treat Them Like They Want to Be Treated on one side, and I forgot what the other one was on the other side. But that was all around the same era as Cool Mo D and some of those other guys, you know, that's just the early LL Cool J, you know, back in the early.
Soul.
Yeah, dude. Woo! Oh,
Snap. Maybe got it a little bit later on.
Snap, yeah. I Got the Power.
Yeah.
So
Rhythm is a Dancer.
Oh yeah. Who did that one? Was that Snap too? The Rhythm is a Dancer.
I think it's got to be. That's one of the best musically made songs at the time, in my opinion.
Okay.
It's that kick drum coming in and all the synthesizers and everything.
Yeah. It was so funny because back then you had such a difference in, like, you listen to things like Too Short and Eazy-E, NWA, that kind of stuff, and then you got like this kind of like almost cheesy, dancey kind of almost funny stuff, like not funny, but again, back to like Kid and Play, and you had like Heavy D, like you said, and even like early DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince when they came out, you know, it was I
had a couple of his cassettes before he even got on the radio.
Oh, really? Yeah. See, for me, it was Parents Just Don't Understand was the first song I ever heard by them.
Okay.
And I remember loving that. And then of course they had Nightmare on My Street was on that same one. And see, and I prefer that. Like, I like Will Smith's newer stuff too, you know, because it had a, you know, good beat. Like, it's not Miami. I love that song just because it's got a real cool sound to it. But I like the funny ones. You Think I Can Beat Mike Tyson? And some of those, I mean, they're just hilarious. And see, those are still funny to me today. I can still listen to those. Yeah, they are to me as well. And his earlier stuff was more rap centric than his funny stuff. But I think it was a good move for him. Yeah, obviously. Right.
But that's where I think like bands like Two Live Crew were, you know, kind of the in-betweens, because they were kind of poppy, but they had the rap vibe, which was a transition from rap to the pop to the, you know, the Heavy D stuff. And,
yeah. Or even like Run DMC that used to incorporate a lot of guitar riffs into their, you know, I mean, obviously that song they did with Aerosmith was one of the most well known, but I mean, they had like, you listen like King of Rock.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, dude, what is this? You know, it's kind of like, other than the Beastie Boys, I don't think I had ever really heard anything like that before.
Yeah. Beastie Boys were great. And then,
Sir
Mix-a-Lot did a cover of Iron Man.
Oh, really?
With Metal Church playing the guitars. It was awesome.
Oh, was that on the Judgment Night soundtrack? I only asked that because there was a soundtrack. I don't remember that one specifically, but there was a soundtrack to a movie, Judgment Night. I don't know if I ever saw the movie, but the soundtrack was exactly that. It had like one rapper with one heavy metal band or something, and they were doing like these collaborations. And this is way before bands like Limp Bizkit and Linkin Park and some of the ones, you know what I mean? Like, this was like, but it was like Slayer featuring Ice-T or some of the other ones. Oh, I can't think of them off the top of my head. It was great. It was like Helmet was on there. I think it was Helmet and the guy from House of Pain did a song, like stuff like that. Like, it was really cool.
Whenever I hear House of Pain, I hear that high pitched squealing sound every time in my ears.
Oh, from Jump Around.
Yes.
Yeah. Whenever if you ever get the chance, which I know I've told you to do this, if you ever see 21 Pilots live, they usually do that song.
Do they really?
Yeah. At least the first couple, they don't do the whole song because like the third stanza or whatever you call it is got some words in it and stuff. But they usually throw it into a medley of other fun stuff that they do, like as a, but well, I feel like I'm jumping too far ahead here with some of the tangents.
I know we could go on for days with this one.
I know, dude. And I know we will. That's why I wanted to give us ample time. So it's okay. So let's do this then. So let's kind of talk to me about your transition from the rap and the hip hop into something different. Like, was it for you? Was it the '90s grunge that kind of switched you over, or was it?
I can tell you that the exact defining moment of what changed my musical tastes forever. And I the band, the album. But before that, when in junior high, I listened to a lot of Rat, Poison, Dio.
Oh, like the 80s glam bands.
The 80s stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Twisted Sister. So that transitioned into the hip hop thing through high school and everything. Okay. And this band's been mentioned more on your show than any other. Metallica's Black album came out.
Nice.
Dude, and that was a mind blow. I was literally, boom, I was so busy in my head in places.
Right. Yeah, I bet, man.
Just paved the way to a whole different musical journey where I really got into the rock scene for a long time.
Right.
I mean, to this day, AC/DC is still my favorite band.
AC/DC is?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about them in just a minute because I'm a fan of them too. I'm writing that down so I don't forget. What was the first song off Metallica's Black album that you heard?
Gosh, I listened to that cassette in my car so many times. I had that system in my car, but
okay. But did you hear a song off of it?
Unforgiven is really the.
Oh, okay.
No, there was this gal, and I'm so bad with names. It's so funny, but her name was Shalene Downhour.
Okay.
And I'll never forget. I worked with her at Target, and she just told me, "Hey," she was a little rocker chick, and she was always trying to date me. And her boyfriend at the time hated me because of it, and it was just a big.
Wait.
At all.
So she had a boyfriend, but she was trying to date you, and for some weird reason, her boyfriend hated you because of that.
No, not for a weird reason. But I always thought, I didn't do anything. You're putting the blame on me. I'm the innocent victim here. So I really didn't do anything with her, but she took me to a Scorpion concert.
A what concert?
One time.
To see who?
Pretty fantastic. But she told me about the Metallica album.
Okay, but what concert did you go to?
Scorpion.
Oh, Scorpion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was really cool.
Okay.
But she told me that I had to get the Metallica album because she said it was just groundbreaking stuff.
And that was the Black album she was referring to.
That was the Black album.
Okay. Because they had a pretty decent following before that, like with Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets.
I mentioned junior high because they were super popular when I was in junior high.
Right.
Prior to any of that. But I wasn't really into them back then. I was like, their stuff, I go back to it now, it's fantastic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Black album's still the best. I don't care what anybody says. Like it just really is. If you disagree with that, you're just wrong. That's my stance.
Exactly. Satan's downstairs dusting a chair off for you right now.
Yeah. But it's funny you mentioned Unforgiven because that is my favorite song on that album.
Yeah.
That is, I love the mix of the hardness and the mellow. Yeah. Right. Because you have a song like Enter Sandman, which is all hard. Then you got a song like Nothing Else Matters, which is all mellow.
Right.
But then I feel like Unforgiven was like this mix of both of them. And it was just amazing.
And exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned that because you have the almost two different styles, but they're so seamless the way they fit. Mm-hmm. And they fit together in one song as well. That's the album was just on so many different levels.
Right.
Huge.
Right. Yeah. And so I know this kind of outs me as a sellout to a lot of people, but Enter Sandman was, I think, the first Metallica song I ever heard.
Oh, okay.
And I loved it. I thought it was great. I got the album and then I heard Unforgiven. And the first time I heard Unforgiven, I was convinced that either they had two singers or they had like a guest vocalist doing the what I felt, what I've known. I'm like, there's no way that's the same guy who's like, new blood joins it. It's like, there's no way that's the same guy, But then I saw the video and I was like, oh my gosh, it's the same guy. And it just blew my mind. I was like, this guy's amazing.
You've grown to really like that in a singer later on. Because as long as I've known you, you've always liked a singer who can do that.
Oh, love it, dude. Yeah, my favorite band of all time is 15, which a lot of people haven't heard of. But that you totally think it's two singers when you're listening to it, because he sounds like two different singers. It's just awesome to me. So, So, yep. Well, I'm glad we could mention Metallica. Because I think that's
they haven't gotten the proper representation. On the show.
They haven't. We actually haven't talked about them in a while. I know the first season, I feel like every episode of the first season, Metallica was mentioned in some way, shape, or form, which is just funny. But then, so AC/DC. So today, you would say that's hands down your favorite band of all time.
Favorite rock band, I should say.
Favorite rock band. Okay, so are you a Bon Scott guy or a Brian Johnson guy?
See, that's the funny rub, because I mean, I'm one of these guys like with the Van Hagar debate.
Yeah.
I like them both. I actually prefer Sammy Hagar because his solo career was so important to me as growing up.
I prefer Sammy Hagar anyway because David Lee Roth was an idiot.
Yeah. They had a lot of good songs, so a lot of people wouldn't even know Van Halen due to either artist, because the early generation, they're gonna love one singer, but you wouldn't even know Van Halen if it wasn't the next generation hearing Sammy Hagar sing.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, it's important to have that kind of transition sometimes in a band.
Mm-hmm.
So the same thing with AC/DC.
Okay.
Bon Scott could have carried that band the whole way, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But, being what happened.
Right.
You got to do something. And a whole new generation as AC/DC fans, and their greatest albums came out of that.
Yes. Yes, which you don't know if it's because of the vocalist or if it's because of just the writing of the band progressing, Yeah,
and I mean, I would say probably not the vocals as much as the writing.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the Back in Black album, I mean, holy cow.
Right. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was Brian Johnson's first album with them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, So I think they sound so similar that I don't know. I mean, I know the purists can probably tell the difference between the two of them, but to me, like David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar, that's easy to tell.
Right.
Like you could play any Van Halen song that I've never even heard before and say, all right, Ryan, which vocalist is singing here? I'd know right away,
Right.
But I don't know if I could do that with AC/DC. You probably could because you're such a huge fan, but.
No, I mean, I know what songs each one sang, but if I didn't know, I wouldn't be able to tell. Even now, I wouldn't.
Okay.
No.
How do you feel about Axl Rose taking over on the lead? Was that the one he took over lead vocals for a while?
Yeah, he did for a short time.
Okay.
I'm not a big Axl Rose fan anyway.
Yeah.
So I didn't really pay any attention to it.
Okay. You just pretend like it never happened.
Yeah, exactly. I heard some of it, and I just, nothing really did anything for me.
Okay. Were you a Guns N' Roses fan ever?
No.
Never?
No.
Not even like Sweet Child of Mine or Welcome to the Jungle? None of that, huh?
None of that. I just didn't care for it. I don't
okay.
like it. And this is a funny thing, because I've been told on more than one occasion, hey, you being a musician, you should like all music. You can't just not like certain songs. And I thought, that's almost the opposite of what is true.
Yeah, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Hey, don't talk to that guy anymore.
Well, yeah. I've been told that more than once. I was doing studio work for a while, and this one lady was there, and she was just, queen of all. She was a studio vocalist.
Mm-hmm.
And she was so surprised that I didn't like certain songs.
Okay.
I'm like, well, if I listen to the song on the level that I listen to it, I can't help but not like certain songs. They're not well done. They're not well written. They're not well produced. Whatever it is.
So her stance was that as a musician, you should literally like every single song that's ever been written.
Correct. You should
every kind of music.
Appreciate it musically no matter what and enjoy it. But she's one of these, all-inclusive people anyway. You just love everybody. Everything's okay. There's no right. There's no wrong. There's just.
Wow.
She was out there floating on her own little lily pad.
I guess so, man. But you said multiple people have said that to you.
It's been said to me twice. Yeah. So more than one person has said that.
Okay. Do those two people know each other?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say maybe they're like part of the same family. There's something maybe inbreeding going on there or something.
I'm gonna stretch my legs. Hope you can still hear me.
Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's jump to. Well, no. Let's stay on AC/DC for a quick sec. So Back in Black is your favorite. You'd say that's your favorite album by them?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
What's Next to the Moon is my favorite song.
Okay. And is that on that album? No. I don't think I've ever heard that song.
No, it's not one of their. I find that most bands that I really like is their non-radio stuff is more my favorite usually.
Okay. Is that because you're trying not to be a poser?
Oh no, because like I said, I love pop music, so I'll admit it to anybody. I love the pop radio stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that song you just mentioned? What's it called? Light of something in the moon.
What's next to the moon?
What's next to the moon? Is that what album's that on?
I couldn't tell you, dude.
Okay. Do you know if it's Bon Scott or Brian Johnson?
I think it was Bon Scott. If I'm
Bon
not
Scott.
mistaken.
Okay, so it's earlier. Okay, I have to check that one out. Okay. All right, so let's kind of just go to. You mentioned like alt rock is kind of your favorite today, but I know you listen to pretty much anything. You're kind of like me. Like, what's your favorite genre? Good music.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Whether it's pop music, hip hop, metal, whatever. Country. I know you even like some country now that you're living up in the hillbilly land up there.
Still the old country. I'm not a big fan, and you've said this on your show more than once. It's just, the old stuff is good. The new stuff is just hard to distinguish from just regular old pop music these days.
Yeah, that's true. And I like when I do the cataloging of CDs at work, a lot of these newer, like who just came through. I can picture her face. I don't remember her name, but a lot of these new, especially some of the female country singers, like even if you go to like their page, it'll show their genre will be pop/country or country pop, or it's never just country.
Right.
So then I always have to pop the actual CD in and listen to it so I know which genre to put it in at the library. Right. Because we have a country section and then we have a pop section, so which one does it go in? And obviously you have singers like Taylor Swift who have gone, her early stuff is country and then the later stuff is very poppy,
right.
So you almost have to listen to each CD in order to do it that way. But you've heard me say before that for me, the old country is like Johnny Cash, Hank Williams Sr., some of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, me too. Oak Ridge Boys and Willie Nelson.
Yeah, exactly. What was that super group? Highwaymen, which was it Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson? I think Waylon Jennings was in there. Who's the third guy?
Areas of country music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Although to what Traveling Wilburys was what? Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, George Harrison,
Roy Orbison.
Yeah, Roy Orbison. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that song, End of the Line, with the video at the very end where Roy Orbison's died and they got a rocking chair sitting there rocking empty as a tribute.
Did you share that with me?
Probably.
Okay, because I know I just saw that recently. You must have sent that to me or something. Because
when I finally discovered what the meaning behind that was, I was just blown away. I was like, whoa, that's so powerful, and I missed it.
Yeah, and especially to think that two of those other guys are dead now too.
Yeah,
George Harrison and Tom Petty. Yeah, crazy. All right, so where should we go next? Let's do this. Let's do and this could be something you've already said, but a band that's impacted your life more than any other band, or a singer that's impacted your life more than anything. Something that's changed you in a way beyond music.
Gosh, that's an interesting one because I've had so many different defining moments musically.
Right.
I would say probably Regina Spektor's had the biggest impact.
Okay. She's one that you showed to me. I didn't know who that was until you showed her to me.
Yeah. Still an obscure artist, but very diverse.
Okay.
And she was on her own little spiritual journey for a while there, and she went in through a divorce, and then all of her music reflects her life and what she's feeling at the time. And I think she really is able to portray that. Okay. Yeah.
So it's more lyrically that moves you with her?
No, because musically it's really well done too. She'll sit at the piano and do it herself, or she'll have, a full band behind her. And it's just musically it's really good too, but it's lyrically is so well written.
Okay.
Very poetic a lot of times.
Yeah. See, I love that and don't love it at the same time because I can appreciate it, but at the same time I'm like, what? But I want to know what she really means by that.
Yeah.
And they'll never tell you. Right?
In being a songwriter, I get that because a lot of times you don't even know.
Yeah.
It's coming from your heart, but you don't even know really what you're saying.
Right.
You're just getting something out of you that's tormenting you every day.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you guys should just say that then. You should just be like, look, I don't even know. I was just singing one day and these are the words that came out. What does it mean? No clue. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, I agree to a certain point, but I mean, I think for a mainstream artist, that kind of mystery generates more attention.
Yeah.
So, because like Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight, that was a mystery for the longest time.
Still is, right?
Well, to a certain point, he came out and said, and this is where I agree, and what I've done myself is he came out and said, well, it was when I was getting divorced. That's what came out.
Oh.
So he said that much. And I've told people before that, well, this is what happened at this time. And this is why that song came out.
Right.
It's not describing what was happening. It's just describing a feeling.
Okay.
Like The Unforgiven. We just talked about that. I mean, really, what's that about? So many questions more than answers.
Right. Right.
So I think the mystery works for these guys in a certain level, and I understand it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I wonder, did Phil Collins' wife cheat on him? Is that why they? Because that would make sense, right?
I the other way around. If I remember correctly.
Oh, so maybe that part is he's speaking from his wife's point of view, or his ex-wife's point of view. Where I was there and I saw what you did. I saw it with my own two eyes.
Yeah.
But then you have a song like "Stan" by Eminem, where he says, "What's he say?" You remember that song by Phil Collins, "In the Air of the Night," where he could have saved the one guy from drowning, and Phil saw it all, and something at a show he found him. He's like this whole theory.
Right. And there's a ton of theories out there.
That's what I'm saying. To me, if I was an artist or a singer or something, that's how I would know I made it. It wouldn't even be a platinum album. It wouldn't be a $1 billion song or something. It would be okay, I wrote a song that people are still talking about 40 to 50 years later, and they're still making up theories about what they think I wrote about.
That's why I think the mystery is important to these mainstream artists. It really is.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when that song came out, it wasn't as popular as it got later.
Right.
Yeah, it really got.
Yeah, because that was off not his first. Was that off his first solo album? It might have been. Yeah, I think it was, Face Value. And that was really the only big single off of it. But he didn't get. It wasn't until later with Sussudio and One More Night and some of those other solo songs he had that then he got really big.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think what album. See, Against All Odds was real big too, and I can't remember what that one came off of.
Well, that was off a soundtrack.
Oh, was it?
That was from a movie called Against All Odds.
Oh, okay,
yeah, that was a good song too. Yeah,
that was a great song.
But I think it was his No Jacket Required was probably the first solo album that he had that went big time, and then after that was But Seriously, which had I Wish It Would Rain Down, Another Day in Paradise. Some of those really good ones. I grew up loving Phil Collins. My parents used to listen to Genesis, Phil Collins, Tracy Chapman. These are all these are the cassette tapes that were in my parents' car.
And I had those myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still think probably Fast Car by Tracy Chapman is probably in my top 10 favorite songs of all time, hands down.
Really?
Even to this day, I can still put it on. I get all the feels. I love to sing along to it. When I'm in my car, no one can hear me, of course, but yeah, it's just such an amazing song. And even when I hear a rapper, there was a rapper, I don't remember who it was now, but he had a rap song where he used the music from Tracy Chapman. That guitar. I'm not going to try to do it with my mouth, but it just has air guitar, but it has a really cool sound.
I always use that. Got Me a Fast Car as a comparison to tell people that Tracy Chapman was really Tom Petty in drag.
Oh yeah,
they sound the same.
Okay, so Regina Spektor. So, is there a specific song what was the first song that drew you into her?
I'm going to say Laughing With.
Okay.
And I think I shared that one with you back in the day.
I'm sure. Yeah. I don't remember the titles.
Samson.
Samson, from the Bible?
No, it's not Samson with the P. It's Samson without, but she does mention the Bible in the song, oddly enough.
Well, it doesn't have a P in the Bible either.
Oh, it doesn't?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. And the only reason I am sure is because my grandmother had a dog, and she tried to name him the guy from the Bible, and she named him Samson, Sampson. And then years later, I started reading the Bible and realized, Grandma, that's not even the right spelling. It was Samson.
Oh.
So that's the only reason I know that. Yeah.
I had the P also. I thought that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a unique song, and it does have some Bible references. And I don't believe she's anything spiritual at all. But
Okay.
for some reason, and I don't know what the song's about, and I probably never will. It just always gets me choked up. It's just one of those weird songs.
Okay. It's not the lyrics. It's just the sound of the song.
It's both. It's just
Okay.
very simple. I mean, in the video too. The video is very powerful.
Okay.
There's another band out there called She and Him that do the same thing. They have these it's kind of this classic sound in these videos that really make the song sometimes.
Is that the Zoe Deschanel group? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I've never heard any of that, but I've heard her sing.
Yeah, I love a lot of their stuff.
Okay. Is that kind of folksy, kind of acoustic guitar kind of music?
Well, it's definitely not acoustic guitar. It's a guy in a Fender and an amp, but it's just her and him and the amp and the guitar, and they do drum tracks and whatnot.
Okay.
So it's kind of White Stripe-ish that way, as far as just the two people playing.
Right. Right. Which that's another group I didn't really know of until you showed them to me. White Stripes. Yeah.
Jack White's probably one of the greatest artists of our time.
Yeah.
Man. And the kind of tours. I mean, his stuff later.
Yeah. See, I don't know anything really about him. Like, I don't know a lot of their music. They're the ones that do the Napoleon Dynamite song, right? In the opening. We were gonna be friends. That one. Do 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 do. I don't remember the words, but it's in the opening.
Be Giants who did that one?
No, it's not. They Might Be Giants. It's either the White Stripes or something that sounds like that.
Oh, I don't recall that being a White Stripes song.
Okay,
but
I could be wrong. Yeah, it has happened once or twice.
Yeah.
So. And I think you're around for both of them. So another one, you whenever you say Regina Spektor, that reminds me of
Ingrid Michaelson.
Yes, there it is. Yeah, I was trying to think of it. I was picturing her face. She's the redhead, right?
Yeah.
The glasses. Yeah. And her song still comes on in Panera sometimes when I'm in there, because I meet with a guy in the mornings over there and do studies and stuff. And sometimes that song, again, I forgot the name of the song. It's her most popular song of all time.
Well, I don't know. You probably hear a lot of her songs now that you don't even know it's her.
Oh, I'm sure of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because she's gotten real popular these days.
Oh, she has.
Her and Taylor Swift are buddy now. So
are they really?
She's one of those ones that changed her style, for the bad.
Oh, no way! She got poppy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Man.
But, she did Everybody, and back then she did the other one that was on the Old Navy commercial. It was the Way I Am.
That's the one. The one. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking. The do. They're like cool. Yeah.
Just a bass and her singing, and it was pretty cool.
That's a great song. Yeah, I think that's the only one that I actually own is that song. I think I bought it off of whatever MP3 site or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, that's a bummer. You just ruined my day, man, to hear that she went pop like that, dude. And that's like when Jewel did that. I used to love Jewel.
Yeah.
And then she totally changed, and I know she's tried to go back now, but I don't know. Just that first album was phenomenal, and then after that, I don't know what happened. But
yeah, and she came out of nowhere, in my opinion, because I'd never heard. A lot of these bands out here before they become popular, and she just came out of nowhere, and I was like, "Whoa, who's this?" It was great music.
Okay, you're talking about Jewel?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's probably. What was that song? What was this first song? The first big song she had?
Foolish Games.
No, that's not the one I remember. Who Will Save Your Soul?
Oh, okay. Well, that was after.
Was that after? Okay. Yeah. I think that was the first song I heard.
Okay, she did
by her. Foolish Games on the same album, though.
Yeah, same album, and then their second album had Hands on it.
Hands, yeah, that was a good song.
Yeah,
she had a couple good songs on that second album, but I think by the third one she had changed so much that it's very different.
Yeah, and she's one of those ones where a lot of her non-radio stuff I thought was even better.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, she's got a song. Is it called Adrian? I think it's called Adrian.
Adrian, yeah.
Where it's Adrian, come out and play. It's just such a sad, like emotional, moving song. And I don't really know what she's singing about. I mean, I feel like on that first album, all the songs she's singing are personal. Like they're actually about things that happened to her in her life. But yeah, I don't know if it was a kid that was like, maybe he had cancer or something and he was dying. I mean, I don't really know to be honest, but it's just such a moving song.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So we're gonna wrap up music with your top 5 favorite bands or artists of all time.
Oh boy.
And you can use obviously AC/DC. I imagine is going to be in there. You can name some of the ones you've already named. If you can name all the ones you've already named, if you want. I mean, we might have already talked about.
I'll give you what I can think of off the cuff. My top 5 favorite. Okay. And I'll give you the 2 bands that I think should never have made music in this whole world.
Oh, good. I like that. I should start asking that.
Well, I've always thought, and I keep meaning to say this to you, and it's too late now because obviously you're coming to the end of this.
Yeah. But
I always thought you should ask people what was their first concert, their best concert, and their worst concert. Because I always ask people that music. What was your most favorite concert and your least favorite concert?
Yeah. And then ask them what their least favorite, like, what's your least favorite band of all time, or what's the bands you hope die, or whatever, you know.
Well, one of my least favorite bands, the Beatles, is mostly dead already. So.
You're not being serious.
I am serious. I can't.
I knew you weren't into the Beatles, but you think they're terrible?
I just don't like anything besides Sgt. Pepper and maybe Yesterday.
Okay, the Sgt. Pepper album?
No, the song.
Just the song. Okay.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Wow.
And I don't know what it is. People just want to string me up because of it.
Yeah. Yesterday's, it's all good, dude. Follow the Sun. You know, like Follow the Sun. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, dude. Oh, killing me. All right. So Beatles, no good. What about good? What do you got on the good side?
Well, we talked about AC/DC, of course.
Yep.
I got to throw Too Short in there only because that was, a game changer for me.
Yep.
The song Ghetto to this day I still listen to. It's just the lyrics are so powerful.
Oh, and it's a great song.
Yeah.
Great song. Yeah.
Def Leppard, I got to throw them in there.
Okay.
Because I think they changed the rock genre for the better. Yeah. And that's the first concert I ever saw.
Def Leppard.
And that's when the drummer still had both arms.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it was like 1986 or something in Spokane.
Wow. Spokane, Washington, Def Leppard. So that was what? Pyromania, probably?
No, I think it was prior to Pyromania.
Hysteria?
Oh, no. Because Hysteria had Pour Some Sugar on Me and all that, right?
Yeah, I think that was later 80s.
Yeah, so that had been Pyromania then.
Okay.
It's too late.
Yeah. Nice, dude.
They throw them in there. The Revivalists.
Okay.
Right now, I know you talked to my wife about this, but
I did, and I still haven't looked them up.
They actually, it's real popular back then. Is that you post lyrics and stuff and hoping somebody would see you, recognize you, and people would steal them all the time.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of lyrics that were taken, and this song was probably the most robbed from me. And I heard it the latest. This one I heard it, 7 years ago, maybe, when they first came out with this song.
And you wrote it how long ago?
Huh?
And you wrote it how long ago?
Oh, this is back in MySpace. So, about 15 plus years ago.
Okay.
So I wrote most of the lyrics, but what they did with the song was so fantastic. And if you listen to the song, it's called I Wish I Knew You. Uh-huh. You'll listen to the song and you'll hear me in it. You'll know right away, oh, yeah, because there's a spiritual connotation to it.
Okay.
But they changed a lot of that stuff. They took it out.
Okay.
But so they made it a lot different. But it was so heavily robbed of something that I had, and they probably don't know who it was. They just were copying stuff from the MySpace days and use it as inspiration, like we all did back then.
Right.
This is great. I'm gonna use this, and it's gonna inspire me, and then it ends up getting filtered into your song sometimes. Yeah.
Well, they're gonna know now because they're gonna listen to this, and they're gonna know.
They're gonna know, and
they're gonna send you a $5 million royalty check. Yeah. Of which case you could just send me like 50,000.
Yeah, I will definitely do that. I'll give you that. But this one was heavily taken from my lyrics, but it's such a great song, such a powerful song.
So was it just lyrics though that you had written?
Yeah.
Okay, so they just took the lyrics and they turned it into a song. Did you have your own song version of that with those same lyrics?
I did. Not that it was posted. It was just something that I had written because I always write the lyrics first and then I build songs around them.
Okay. But like their version was probably sounded way different than the one that you had in your head.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. But I invite you to listen to it and you'll recognize right away.
Okay.
Say, oh yeah, I can see that. That's so similar to my style of writing. You're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, which that's something we haven't mentioned is that we used to play music together in the greatest rock band the world's ever known, called
Your audition was playing Mr. Gadget on the bass guitar.
Yeah. Hey, I still play that. So that's funny because I still at the church we were at just before we're back at Calvary, I played bass on the worship team, and I would always play that. Like I would play that like when the rest of the band was tuning up or whatever. I'd be like do 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 do. And the only reason I learned that is because there's a punk band called Lagwagon, and they did that on their album. They had that on there, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool! I want to learn how to play that." And so I fooled around with it, like long before you and I ever started playing music together. And that was like one of the only things I knew how to play. So when you guys were all doing your thing, I'm just kind of like, "Oh, okay, I'll just play this," But some of that, I've told you this before, but I mean, some of those songs that came out of that were just, in my opinion, phenomenal. Like they do that to me. They do that emotionally to me. They make me tear up. They make me feel, and it's not just because I was a part of that band. It's because man, these lyrics they're heavy. Like and a lot of Christian bands, they're not writing stuff like this. They know that if they write stuff like this, they're not going to get on Christian Top 40 and that kind of thing. They're going to be blacklisted and, for all the wrong reasons. These days a Christian artist can get up and dress in a dress and sing about how, cross-dressing's okay. And the Christian community is like, oh, bravo, Yeah. But if a band says anything even remotely biblical, oh, we got to get rid of these guys. These guys, it's like, wait a minute. So no turning back, man. That was where it was at. We would have been big, man. We would have went big.
It would have been big.
Now we're just a distant memory and a collection of demos that were recorded in your whatever you want to call that, your granny unit behind your house.
Home studio. Yeah. That's right. The epic home studio of the laundry room.
That's still amazing to me.
That's the dryer going.
Dude, yeah. How did we cram? What do we have? Four? Was there four of us? Right? It was me, you, Kevin, and David, right?
Yeah, with amps and keyboards.
Yes.
Recording setup. Yeah.
All crammed in that little, was it like an 8x8 room?
It was bigger than that, but it was. It wasn't. It just seemed small because we had so much gear in there.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a pretty good sized space. It got small real fast.
Yep. And we played one show, and we brought down the house, man. We had, girls were throwing their panties at us and everything, man. We were rocking it, man.
I just got to throw a little plug for you.
Yeah.
We had a couple different bass players during that time, but
yes,
your timing was so fantastic. Because for a bass, it's very important, and you wouldn't be ahead of them, but you'd be. You'd just be hitting it, so your note would ring out right on beat. It was always beautiful because especially when I was doing all the editing and trying to line the tracks up, because not to mention somebody's name had a terrible sense of timing.
Right.
It was tough, and we had to listen to these songs to practice with. So I always liked that about you. You just had that ear, so you knew you were hitting that string just right before that note would ring out.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that, man, because I felt like I felt like the odd man out a lot of times in those practice sessions. I was kind of like, I don't know. I feel like all you guys were much more musical than me in a lot of ways. Like you had been doing it for longer, and I was just kind of like, I just kind of play with my bass over here, which wasn't even my bass. I think it was your bass or somebody's bass.
I don't recall now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I was borrowing it from somebody.
Around.
All right. So we got, in your top five, we got four of them. We got AC/DC, Too Short, Def Leppard, and Revivalists. You got a fifth one to throw in there?
Gosh.
Or a sixth and a seventh? I mean, give me as many as you want.
It's just too hard to pick. I mean, I guess I got to put Metallica up there because they were such a life changer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like Great White.
Okay.
Was probably one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
Iron Maiden. I mean.
Okay.
I guess Keiko Matsui was another big one too. So we can go on for days. I can't.
What'd you just say?
Keiko Matsui.
Keiko Matsui?
Keiko. She was a Japanese pianist and jazz musician. I saw her in concert a few times.
How do you spell that? T-A?
Keiko.
K-E. Oh, Keiko.
Yeah, Keiko Matsui, Matsui, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I never heard of that one. I'll have to check that out. Okay. All right. So lastly, if you can do it, this is the hard question here. If you can't do it, I'll just have you send them to me later. But if you can give me 2 or 3 favorite songs from each of these artists, I'm going to go back and read them to you. The ones you just gave me as your tops. Start with AC/DC.
I would have to say right now, What's Next to the Moon.
Okay.
But that changes. I mean, my favorite songs change from these bands all the time as I listen to them.
Right.
You know?
Right. Can you give me 2 or 3 or just one?
I'll give you one per.
Okay, one per. All right.
Yeah.
Too Short. I think you already said The Ghetto.
Either Life Is or The Ghetto. It's got to be Ghetto.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Def Leppard.
Too Late.
Okay.
Too Late for Love.
Okay. Revivalists.
I Wish I Knew You.
You're a little biased on that one.
Well, I am.
All right. Metallica.
Metallica. Oh boy.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Although I think the greatest song they've ever done is Unforgiven. I'm gonna go with my favorite is Master of Puppets.
Okay. All right. Nice. So you probably love that scene in Stranger Things then. Which I know is your favorite season of all time of the show because you loved how the monster talked. You loved that. You thought that was great.
Yeah, that just don't even get me started on that. We're gonna add a section 4 to this little.
Yeah, it'll be music, politics, spirituality, and why Justin hated season 4 of Stranger Things,
or just Netflix series in general and how they.
Okay. All right. Great White.
Ooh. Save All Your Love.
Okay. Iron Maiden.
I'm going to say Underground with Iron Maiden.
Okay. That's a song?
That's a song. Underground.
Okay. You're going to appreciate, there's an episode that's not out yet. It's coming up in the next 4 or 5, I think. But the guest I have on he's a huge Iron Maiden fan. He talks about when he saw them live, and he tells a pretty cool story about like their encore and stuff is really cool. See, that's a band I don't even know. So
you didn't have him on already? Because you had another Iron Maiden fan, I thought.
I think I did. Yeah, I think I did. This is a different guy. Yeah, I can't remember who the first one was.
You don't hear too many people who say Iron Maiden fans.
No. And he was a huge. Yeah, they're the new Metallica.
Well, I don't know if you remember back in the day, you might have been too young, but they had these grotesque demonic posters and T-shirts and stuff.
Yes. That's exactly what I remember. That's the only thing I know of that band.
That's what people remember about them.
And that's part of why I don't think maybe I was scared off by that when I was younger. I never really got it. I assumed they were satanic, and even before I was a believer, I was kind of like, yeah, but I don't do devil music. I don't listen to Slayer. I don't listen to some of these other stuff. Of course, I'd listen to music that was full of all Satan's happy stuff, of course, profanity, the sex, everything else. I listened to hip hop where women were treated like meat, no problem, but not the zombie on the cover of the album.
That's unacceptable.
Yeah, that's too far for Ryan's taste.
Draw the line somewhere.
That's right. But after listening to that guest you're referring to and the one I just did, I definitely want to delve in. I want to kind of at least get a taste, because I could probably rattle off some titles of Iron Maiden songs, but I've never purposely listened to an Iron Maiden song. If I've ever heard it, it was because it was playing somewhere and I didn't know who it was. Like it was on in like Target or something. I know Target always plays like Iron Maiden in there. So,
What now?
Justin's like, wait, I don't know what Target you have, but we don't.
I couldn't process what you were saying. I was at the stop. I was like, wait a minute. Target. What did I miss here?
Which I appreciate. I love it. I love when I can do that to somebody, especially somebody who knows me as good as you do. Yeah, like wait, what? All right, and lastly, Keiko
Matsui.
Keiko Matsui.
Yeah.
All right. Can you give me a song by her?
I would say Whisper from the Mirror.
Okay. And are her songs all instrumental or does she sing as well?
No, some of them have singing. She doesn't sing.
Okay.
She plays the piano and keyboard and whatnot.
Okay. She'll have like guest vocalists.
Yeah.
Kind of like Santana.
Jazz
Okay.
singers on there.
Okay. Cool, man. All right. That's it for music. We'll jump into politickiness. Let's get political.
Let's get political.
Where we get serious. This is where it all comes to a head and we really, we find out who you really are.
That's
what
right.
you really believe in, what you really think about things. So, are you a political guy, or do you just kind of avoid it at all costs? Or you?
No, I'm definitely less political than I was prior, but I'm still fairly political, I guess. Very conservative.
Okay, you fall more on the right leaning side of things.
Correct, but unfortunately, and this goes with religion too. Believing and being a Christian are two different things, and I think these days, being a Republican and being conservative are two different things.
They are, yeah. Isn't that funny?
It seems to be the way.
Yeah. Well, it's such a dividing line that's been taking place. To where it used to be, and I've said this a million times before, but like even Democrats and Republicans didn't used to be that different.
Correct. And
now they're like, I mean, they couldn't agree on anything, I don't think.
They can just agree to hate each other, and that's
that's true. That's true.
Unfortunately, the Republican Party is so disconjointed and without any kind of structure these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bunch of people trying to further their political careers and make their own mark.
Right.
Where I feel like the left is more organized and structured with the same nefarious goal. It just seems to be two different approaches, I guess you would call it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I call it mindsets. To me, it's just two totally different mindsets. And like you can throw a topic in the middle of a room full of Democrats and Republicans or liberals and conservatives, you could even use. And they will both quickly clamor to one side of that room or the other. Mm-hmm. And they'll all be united in what they believe in each of their groups and just hate on anybody that believes otherwise. You know what I mean? Like it's just fascinating. It's like, it's so easy to tell when people say, well, I'm not political. I say, I can tell you if you're right leaning or left leaning by asking you 5 simple questions.
Mm-hmm.
And however you answer those will tell me which side of the fence you fall on, so.
And nobody's willing to actually hear any argument against what they have grasped onto.
Right.
Which is so sad in an era where our open discussion and forum is no greater than it has ever been.
Right.
And nobody uses it for that, but just the opposite.
Right.
Just throw it out there and attack.
Yeah, that's a good point, dude, because I mean, we're at an age of technology where I could do this right here. I could connect with somebody through Zoom that lives in like Russia. Like we could be connected face to face within seconds. You know what I mean? And we could be having this amazing discussion about how to fix things, how to do this, but we've become so, like you said, closed off to the idea of anybody else's opinion about things. So we're just like, oh, I believe what I believe. Stay away from me. And you and I dealt with this, and even in biblical circles for a while when we were learning what we were learning from the Bible. A lot of times people say, no, I don't want to hear. That's not what my church believes.
Right.
Well, that's the wrong question. It doesn't matter if that's what your church believes. The question is it true or not? Right. So, yeah. So
we were doing those message boards for a while, and even that was good.
Yeah.
And not nearly as closed off as it is now, even though we met quite a bit of that.
Right. Right. Yeah. You can't even do that kind of stuff now, or even something like Facebook. You say anything opposing, or not even opposing. You just ask a question based on something political that somebody posts, and they just shut you off. They unfriend you. You're done. It's like,
if Facebook doesn't stop you, they will.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. Well, I've actually never been banned from Facebook. I know you have quite a record there, but.
I'm a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I was just say it's you and a couple other friends I have on there that every couple months you'll see them come on there and say, "Well, I'm out of Facebook jail."
Yeah,
it's like wowzers, so much for a free speech forum, right?
They've lightened up quite a bit. It'd be the silliest things that I'd get, 30-day ban from. It was just
right.
Like, really?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And there was a time, if you recall, when a mutual friend of ours said, "I hate white people," in a derogatory fashion, talking to you and I when we were just having a discussion about something.
Okay.
And that was the end of his argument. And I actually complained to Facebook, and they didn't take it down. They didn't have any problem with it.
Okay. I have no recollection of that at all.
Oh, okay.
You can tell me who that was after we're off the air.
Well, he's passed now, so.
Oh, okay. Now I do know who it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember him saying that. I remember some pretty intense conversations with him through the one I still use this example actually. Whenever I talk to anybody about like alcoholism and like, cause we always talk about like, well, does the Bible say you can't drink alcohol? No, it doesn't. It says it's against drunkenness, right? Drunkenness. But then you and I would always talk about, what does that mean?
Right.
Like at what point does drinking become drunkenness? Like where's the line there? Do you have to be dancing on the table in your underwear with a lampshade on your head to constitute drunkenness? And I always use the example because you came up with the whole thing of, well, it's any time it affects you. Like as soon as that alcohol starts to affect you, then that can be drunkenness, right? Or you might not even hold this view anymore, but this person you're talking about, he came on and he said, well, what about caffeine? Caffeine affects you when you drink caffeine. Are you saying we shouldn't drink caffeine? And it was kind of like that whole debate,
It's that, but it affects you mentally. Your mental decision making isn't affected by caffeine.
Right. It might be.
I mean,
I'm more likely to choose to do something fun if I'm all wired and I'm like, Mr. Happy Man. Yeah.
Now I'm gonna dance on the tables. But it's funny because I always held to back then, and it's been reinforced with my own struggles with alcohol.
Yeah.
I used to say back then, people will say, well, it's okay to have a glass or two glasses or whatever, but it's a level of tolerance. The more you have, the more you can tolerate.
Yeah.
Without being affected. The way that maybe I was saying back then.
Right.
But that came to a point where I was drinking and not being affected because I wasn't, but I was, it was a lot more and more and more towards being a problem.
Right.
So I think that you're affected when you don't realize you are. I guess.
Sure. Well, that's like all addiction, right? I mean, most people who are addicts don't usually, that's why they say step one is admitting you have a problem.
Yeah.
Right. Because for a lot of people, they'll just say, what are you talking about? I'm not addicted to anything. I'm not addicted. I just having fun. This is just what I like to do. Leave me alone. I'm not addicted.
Right.
It's just like, and then they'll always point to somebody. Yeah. And they'll always point to somebody who's way worse off than them. I'm not as bad as this guy. Look at this guy over here. I'm not like him. He's addicted. That guy's addicted, not me.
Yeah.
All right. So the main question, as you know, that I always ask is, what is, in your view, one of the biggest issues facing our world, our country, if you just want to keep it national, something that you really see is putting a huge hamper on our societies, on our world that we're living in, that we're raising children in, that we're doing these things in? Like, what do you see as that being such being a big deal?
I can point to specific examples.
Okay.
But I think the root of all of these examples is going to be our tolerance, our level of tolerance for certain things. It's come to be expected to tolerate all kinds of things that we don't agree with.
Okay.
And then now it's come to a point where we have to change our behaviors. And I'll use a transgender. It's a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
If that's what you want to do, I don't care.
Right.
But you don't shove it down my face, and don't make me change how I speak to somebody.
Right.
Because of it.
Yeah.
Now you're affecting me.
Yes.
See, now you're affecting me.
Right.
And, there's this whole story that just happened not too long ago where this trans kid was with the girls group and identified as a girl. I think he was 11. They bunked him with another female in the same bed. Not even the same bunk. It was the same bed.
Wow.
I said, so her parents fortunately were there and stepped in, but
yeah,
it's assumed that we have to tolerate these things.
Right.
Now I can accept they want to be however they want to be and do what they want to do.
Sure.
And it's the same thing with, vulgarity and, gratuitous sex in movies. We just keep lowering the bar.
Yeah.
And we keep being told we're supposed to expect it. And the more we lower the bar, the more we're supposed to tolerate it, the more desensitized we come to it, the lower the bar goes.
Right.
I mean, in yours and my lifetime alone, look at how things have changed dramatically.
Right.
It's supposed to be okay.
Yeah.
When The Simpsons came out.
Yeah.
and said a couple of what we call light curse words on air, people lost their minds.
Right. Or even Bart saying, "Eat my shorts."
Yeah.
Was like a huge deal. Like it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they said that on national TV.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. And now they drop the F-bomb on TV and they bleep out everything but the F.
Right. Yeah.
You know exactly
yeah. Because you can't tell what they're saying when they do that, of course.
Exactly.
You know, you can't read lips or anything, you know.
And as you know, part of the editing process, it's pretty easy to remove the F part too.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I get it all depends on like who's doing the censoring and why, like what the purpose behind what they're censoring is. And, you know, you and I have talked many times before about even, you know, I can't trust another person when they say, oh, your kid's at my house and we're going to watch this movie. And it's a Christian family even, let's say, and they're like, oh, what's the movie? Oh, it's this. It's, oh, I haven't seen that. Is it clean? Oh, yeah, it's totally fine. I can't trust that anymore because someone else's totally fine might not be my totally fine. Correct. Right? Because of what's now accepted, even in the Christian community. It's like, oh, yeah, I let my kid watch as long as it doesn't say this word or this word or this word. And I'm always like, well, where's the line there? Why are you making a line? God doesn't make a line. Right? It's like, what are you doing? You know? So it's like a societal line where we've always deemed for whatever, like the F word, that's the big one, right? That's the worst one you could say.
Right.
Why? I don't know. That's just always, that's been like that since I was a kid, you know?
It's the one magical word.
I guess, you know, but even like you just mentioned, when you and I were younger, there were certain words that weren't those ones that you still couldn't say on TV. Right. You couldn't say B words. You couldn't say certain things you could not say on TV. And now, like you said, pretty much everything other than F word and S word, no problem. You watch any sitcom that's out right now, they're full of every word but those two. You know, and it's totally fine. So
yeah. I loaned The Princess Bride to a very religious family when I was a teenager, and I had to preface this by saying there's one bad word in it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And nowadays, people wouldn't even notice that.
Yeah. Well, with that one too, I think the one you're talking about is the SOB.
Yes,
that part. But then there's also the part from a Christian perspective, where the kid's talking to his grandpa when he's in bed and he says Jesus Christ as a swear word almost, you know, like a sign of exclamation. He's not talking about Jesus like, oh, I love Jesus Christ.
Right.
You know, it's more like a dang it, you know, kind of thing, you know.
And I would agree with that now, but you know, then I didn't even notice I wasn't a believer then. So.
Oh, I didn't. I used to say that all the time before I was a Christian. Yeah. Like that was my go-to. You know, I probably said that more than most other profanities that I used to use, you know, just. Wow. I was just, you know, which is kind of an ignorant thing to say, really, because, you know, I heard, who was it now? I forgot who it was. Somebody was talking to a family member about it. They're like, oh, I don't mean anything by it. I don't mean anything by it. And the guy told his family member, he says, well, that's the problem. Yeah. Like, if you're going to say that his name, you should mean something by it. It's not just some willy-nilly frilly thing you throw out there as a swear word, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So
sorry, I got to stretch my legs again.
Yeah, go for it, man. You doing all right?
Yep, I'm doing fine.
You physically doing good these days?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So right.
Cool.
Yeah, the funny thing about cursing is you know, with me having Tourette syndrome.
Yeah.
I would sit in class and I would just shout out a curse word every once in a while, just so I could, you know, leave the classroom.
Oh, you do it on purpose?
Yeah.
So it wasn't a Tourette.
I never had that form of it.
Oh, okay. But you could play that card.
I have Tourette's, and that's all people think Tourette's is shouting out profanities, which is it's pretty rare.
That's because that's all we would see, like on Phil Donahue and Oprah Winfrey. Like you'd see these kids just like, wow, you know, and all of a sudden they just start letting swear words fly. You know, it's like, what happened?
Yeah. But I got to use that to my advantage a few times.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. So I lost track again. I keep going all over the place with these things you're saying. So remind me again, you were saying
we were talking about the tolerance I felt was
tolerance. Okay. Biggest issue. The more that we're saying this is okay, that didn't used to be okay.
Correct.
So if we continue on that trajectory, where do you see our world being like 30, 40 years from now?
Well, you know, our world versus this country. I mean, we used to be pioneers of the vulgarity that we have in our societies now, worldwide. And now we're taking a backseat to like Canada and Europe, where these guys are leading the charge. So I think our world is already in a downward spiral.
Yeah.
It's just who can get there faster.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I don't see any recovery from where we're gone. Now there's no pulling out of this mess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be to a level where anything is okay. And
right.
What used to be illegal is now accepted.
Right. Right.
I mean,
well, I mean, yeah. Do you think that it's more like we have things like freedom of speech, right? And that's what people always try to throw out there to justify anything that they say ever.
Right.
Right. With the exception of apparently, well, what are the odds on today being the day it is? With the exception of inciting riots, right?
Oh,
today being January 6th.
Exactly.
But I mean, like they'll say, oh, freedom of speech. But in a case like that, where first of all, it wasn't, in my opinion, inciting. I don't think anything was said by him to say, oh yeah, you guys need to go do that. You know, I don't think there's anything there
against it, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. But let's say he did.
Right.
Let's say, and this is where I probably, a lot of people probably disagree with me on this, and I understand why. I mean, I'm not solid on it. It's just kind of where I'm at, is that just because somebody says something, I don't think that should have any kind of necessarily criminal. I mean, saying something is saying something, doing something is doing something, you know, and, you know, I go back to like Charles Manson, right? And people make the argument, you know, Charles Manson never literally killed anybody, right? Like everybody that was killed by Charles Manson was killed by his followers. He said, hey, go kill that girl, go kill that guy,
right?
You know, and they followed his orders. And I'm not saying he's innocent by any means, but he still had to convince someone else to do it. Like it was the doing that was the issue, right?
Right.
Because if you go back to that and you say, okay, what if Charles Manson just told those people to kill those other people? And what if they never did it? Would he have been in the same kind of boat he was in? No, of course not, because nobody would have died, you know?
Right.
So anyway, what I'm saying is like we've let freedom of speech become something obviously that the founding fathers didn't mean it to mean. Right. The whole idea of freedom of speech was you should be able to have an opinion. You should be able to share your views and your thoughts on any topic. You should be able to do that. But it doesn't mean you should be able to just, you know, walk around or in a restaurant just throwing F-bombs everywhere and using or going up to some lady in a restaurant and calling her every filthy name in the book and telling lies about other people that aren't true. I mean, obviously there's limits to freedom of speech, and that's not what the forefathers meant.
Right. And I think that tolerance plays a role in that. Because back when they, you know, were talking about freedom of speech, those things were unfathomable.
Right.
Or when the left was telling people to, you know, if you see a Trump or a red hat, you know, go beat him up. Yeah. So they were inciting violence against the right.
Right.
But back in the day when they were talking about freedom of speech and, you know, the founding fathers were discussing these things, that was not a fathomable thing. We just tolerate things to a whole new level now. Right.
Right. The same with like the homosexual debate. And they say, well, how come there's nothing when they talk about that, there's nothing in there about gay marriage? Well, because that wasn't happening back then. Nobody was even asking for that back then.
Right.
Like it wasn't an issue, you know? Well, how come there's nothing in there about transgender? Because that wasn't an issue back in 1776. Like nobody was really coming up and saying, hey, you know what? I think I'm a woman on the inside. You know, it just wasn't commonplace, you know? And obviously we need to make amendments and we need to kind of evolve in a sense, right? To differing, obviously laws and rules need to be made for the new things that are happening. But I kind of feel like we should need to stay with the core values of what the founding fathers had, you know, which I know isn't a popular view either these days.
It's not.
Yeah. Because they were all racist, homophobic anyway. So
yeah, exactly. It's good to be a document they don't even want to allow anybody to know.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, it's just we've gotten so far from our moral founding. I certainly don't want to say Christian or religious foundings of this nation, because I don't think that's as prominent as some people would say.
Yeah, and I do agree with you on that. We've talked about that before, about people say this is a Christian nation or it was founded on Christian principles. And I think you're one of the first people I ever heard say, if it was a Christian nation, then freedom of religion never would have been a thing.
Right.
Right. Like if you're going to make a Christian nation, quote unquote, then it's going to be a Christian nation. That means all other religions can take a back seat, Right. But that was a core tenet of the original founding fathers was freedom of religion, which I think is great.
I think they're wise in doing that.
Yeah, I do too, because I mean, especially, and I think that was probably a big thing because them coming from Europe and leaving the monarchy kind of thing. I mean, like, no, we don't want to be under this anymore. We want to be able to worship how we want to worship. We want to live how we want to live. We want to have jobs we want to have. We want to, it's like this whole idea of freedom, is a good thing, even though, again, there's a lot of hate talk against America these days and people, trying to badmouth it and say it's all built on lies and racism and slavery and,
Right.
And of course, a lot of that was happening, but I don't think it was built on that. I mean, that's kind of a far stretch, but
right. It's like, paper, the pen and paper existed back then. So
yeah.
Other things, and we said it just was part of the norm, and we evolved past that.
Right.
Right.
So right. So what about like government stuff? Do you follow like politics? Are you watching the 2024 election that's coming up here pretty quick?
Yeah, I probably will watch it. I don't watch as much political stuff as I used to.
Okay.
I certainly, because I just, besides OAN, which is a One American Network.
Sounds like
I
a
really
cult.
haven't found anything these days that isn't just completely biased one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gone from liberal and conservative to Democrat and Republican, and I just can't stomach watching it anywhere because you can't get a fair opinion.
Right.
And so the only just like for me, voting was always a big thing, because I wouldn't vote unless I could do it responsibly. So I'm sitting here reading all the documents. You have the pamphlet they give you, but you can't trust that.
Right.
Voters guys, you have to go online and look at each bill, each measure, each person. It's like, this was too much of a task. They make it almost impossible to vote responsibly.
Yeah.
And even today, all these political parties are out there and these candidates and everything, they make it impossible to really drill down and find the truth of anything.
Right.
So, I really am just kind of, I don't know what the word for it is, but I just kind of lost my,
disillusioned.
That. Huh?
Disillusioned.
Maybe
disheartened. Yeah. And I think that should be that, to me, that is the biggest issue. Number one for me is that right there is the idea that can happen. Mm-hmm. That should not be allowed to happen. If there's anything I want my tax dollars going towards, it's stopping that.
Yeah.
There should be not a single lie being told from the media of any way, nothing. None. It should be strictly facts. This is what's happening. This is why this is why, whatever. I understand you don't know everything there is to know. Then say that. Mm-hmm. But they don't, right? They bent it one way or another. They got an agenda from both sides. They're trying to promote something one way or another. Just knock it off,
Right.
If you have a proposition that needs to be voted on for the people, get rid of all the big, stupid words and all the stuff that's confusing people and they have no idea what you're talking about. Just talk like a caveman. Just be like this. If this passes, this will happen. Right? Just flat out. But they don't do that because a lot of the times they know that, people won't vote for this. We know this is bad. People aren't going to vote for this. This only helps us. It doesn't help them.
Yeah, we got to squeak this one through somehow.
Yeah. So they word it in some way that people read and they go, I don't even know what that means. But the Republicans backing it, so I guess I'll vote for it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like
that's the biggest danger is voting along party lines.
Yeah, exactly. It's pathetic. It's terrible.
And you look at these things when they get reported on in the news and everything is like, who's actually, because we keep saying the media has an agenda.
Right.
Well, who's the one with the agenda? Because if there was 5 news channels, say CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, if there was 5 media centers that we consider liberal, and they all had their own agendas, it would have 5 different newscasts with 5 different opinions.
Right.
There's somebody above that with a single opinion that they all follow.
Right.
The same thing with the conservative, media outlets. So you all have one agenda coming from somewhere that they all have to follow that narrative.
Right. Right.
I mean, who's at the top of these strings? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like that shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, agreed.
That shouldn't be allowed. That should be, I'll vote for anybody that says that. If Biden comes out 2024 and says, well, no, maybe not, because I wouldn't trust him. But if they came out and said, all right, my number one job in this term is to get rid of all the media lies of any shape, size, or form, whatever, done. It's going to be illegal from this point forward to say anything in the media that is not 100% solidified fact, unless there's going to be the little caveat at the end, or they'll say, look, we don't know for sure. This is what we do know, right? It doesn't paint the full picture because we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle yet. This is all we know, right? This cop, there was a cop involved shooting and a man was killed. It's all we know at this point, right? But then again, they always have to add some stuff. Well, I guess, wait a minute, I'm realizing that what I'm saying might not be true, because they are saying things that are true. They're just not saying everything there is to know.
Right.
Right. Because they'll always mention the race of the people only if it's a certain demographic that's shooting the other demographic.
Yeah.
They always got to mention it. Otherwise, they don't mention it. So, like, obviously, there's a media bias there. So I guess there's not really any lies being told in that case, but it's just the way it's spun.
Omissions, right? Yeah.
Omissions, yeah, or camera angles that are only shown, certain audio clips that are only released, that kind of thing. But back to like the 2024 election, just because that's kind of, it looks like, if the polls are correct, as of now, we're going to have another Trump-Biden showdown. How does that make you feel?
Well, good and bad. I think, since I'm so disillusioned with the Republican Party, that I think we need a good conservative in the office. And I think, if nothing else, Trump's a conservative. And he's got, this country at heart. I mean, you look back, in the 80s, I think, is when he saved the Veterans Parade in New York as a American. Right.
Before he had any political leanings at all.
Correct.
Right.
And so I think that he would be still the best choice,
Between
honestly,
those two people, you mean?
Between those two people, yeah. I mean, I don't see a better choice anyway, because you see like Rob DeSantis, who had some, good ideas and everything, but he was riding Trump's coattails before.
Right.
And now he's out there talking against him.
Right.
It's like,
well, I think Trump started that battle, though.
Maybe.
Not that justifies it, but.
Right.
Yeah, because in the beginning, that's what one of the things I appreciate about Ron DeSantis is that even when Trump started throwing mud, when DeSantis first started talking about running, DeSantis was still he didn't say anything back. He would just say, look, this is what I believe. This is my policies. This is what I plan to do. He didn't really start throwing mud back until a little while later. And I was kind of disappointed when he did that. I was like, now you're lowering yourself to his level. Don't do that.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with how that all transpired, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So. But I'm still a big DeSantis. He's still, I would like him to get in there, but does he have what it takes to beat Biden? I don't know. I definitely don't want another Biden 4 years of Biden. I don't think he's going to live another 4 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't think so either. He's just not going to be well enough to do anything, I don't think.
Right. And if he dies, guess who we get?
Yeah.
Even worse.
So if he's the same ticket as you assume he will be,
right?
Then, it's just, and that's the best the Dems can hope for, is if he gets in there and then he's not fit, well then, Kamala Harris, here we go. Right.
Yeah. Which she might be the worst person ever to exist. At least in politics.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's even a step above Barbara Streisand, in my opinion. So, I mean, that's, I think Barbara Streisand is the Antichrist, but I think other than that,
Yeah, I don't know if Ryan told you this, but my brother Ryan is very conservative, as you know, but he, for his birthday, I actually went on eBay and bought an autographed Barbara Streisand poster. And it was a real autograph, too, and I gave it to him.
And it was a joke, though, right?
It was a joke, yeah.
Okay, because he wasn't a big fan of Barbara Streisand.
Not in the slightest.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, she's definitely evil incarnate.
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to that mindset thing, right? And I know I keep saying it, but it truly is fascinating to me. Like, I'm not saying it like I think I'm right and the left is all wrong. It really is amazing to me that you can take the same topic, the same exact thing, and put it before a right-leaning mind and then put it before a left-leaning mind, and they just don't, they see two totally different things. To the point that to the people on the left, the person that's the right leaning, they're the devil. Mm-hmm. And then the person on the right views the person on the left, they're the devil. Like, it's like they just can't, on either side, their mind can't even comprehend how you could feel that way about that thing. Like, it makes no sense to us, right?
Right.
The same way that we would look at like a left-leaning view, like say abortion or the transgender thing or something like that. Like the idea of a biological male in the girls' locker room in high school because he says he's a female, right? To us, that makes absolutely no sense, like not even a bit of sense, like zero. Right. Like, we're just like, there's no way that should be okay. And then somebody on the left goes, you guys are crazy. Why shouldn't he be allowed to go in? Why shouldn't she be allowed to go in there? She's a woman. Are you guys nuts? She's an actual woman. And we're going, right. No, she's not. It's amazing to me. Like, how does that happen? I don't get it.
I don't either. And that's funny you bring that up, because that's why I don't like these Newsmax, videos and movies they've been doing so much of, because, like all these debates you hear, you never hear anybody say, you know what, you're right. You changed my mind. Right. It never happens. Not on Facebook. Right. Not in these debates. So you see these guys going out to these college campuses and just arguing with people to no avail. Right. It's just, there's no fruit. It's just sensationalism.
Yeah. Well, what is it? Was it Steven Crowder that used to have the little booth that it'd say something and change my mind. Right. And he'd set it up on college campuses like biological males are males. Change my mind. And of course he has these videos of these angry students coming up like, what do you think you are? Blah, 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 blah. And they're all mad and angry. And he, since he's a right-leaning mind, right, he goes to, well, hey, I'm open. Prove to me why I'm wrong. I really want to know how I'm wrong. Oh, you're just a stupid idiot and you're this and you're that. No. Tell me why I'm wrong. Don't call me names. Just explain to me. I'll jump on your side as soon as you can show me why I'm wrong. Oh, you're just an idiot. And they walk away.
You and I understand that because we're both willing to be changed by to think it out. But it's unfortunate that the left feels when the right thinks. Right. Yes. They respond to these hot topics and they feel this way about it. They don't actually want to think about it. Right.
Right. And is there a right and wrong there?
To a certain degree, yes. It was an extreme on either side, because if you overthink it and you don't have any emotional response to something, mm-hmm. You've gone too far. If it's all emotions and no thought response to something, it's wrong.
Right. So it's got to be a middle ground. Okay.
Yeah, you have to have a balance of, be willing to talk about it, think about it, and feel about it. Because for me, I can tell you that somebody who is passionate about something and has a feeling that they feel, can still talk to me and convince me that, I should feel a certain way about something. Not something I'm mindset against. Mm-hmm. I'd be willing to hear that. I'd be willing to say, you know what, I'm not as an emotionally responsive person as the next guy. So, maybe I should, right, be more empathetic or sympathetic to what you're talking about.
Yeah, but see, the way and again, I'm not saying I'm right, because again, I don't know what the right or wrong here is necessarily. I can only speak from my mindset, which is what I was just kind of talking about. Like, I can't see it from that mindset. Like, it doesn't because I always go, like you said, logic, facts. Right. That's where I go with it, because my mind is right leaning. I don't go with feelings. Someone can share their feelings with me. I'm not saying I should say, your feelings suck, shut up, get away from me. But ultimately, if I'm trying to find a solution for something, or I'm trying to talk about something that I think is an important issue, and someone says, well, you know what, Ryan, this really just doesn't make me feel very good. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry about that, but that really, that has no bearing on what I'm trying to say. Zero. It means nothing in the grand scheme of things to say, well, we think that this law should be passed. Well, that hurts my feelings, that law does. It hurts my feelings to pass a law that says you can't kill people. Right. I don't care. We need to make a law that says you can't kill people because that's not okay.
That's the extreme that I'm talking about. But there's a middle ground there, because I've come to learn over the years and all the mistakes that I've made that I don't know anything. I'm an idiot. I literally don't know anything. Anything that I do know that's right is not from me. It's either from the spirit within me, or from truth has been learned. It's not my own.
Right.
Nothing good comes out of me. And so I've come to a point where I think you can stand back, even with the logical mindset that I have, and I'm talking to somebody about, say capital punishment or something along those lines, where they say, yes, but you should, doesn't that make you feel bad that another life's being taken? Two wrongs don't make a right, type of thing. And so I have to be able to say, yeah, you know what, I can see what you're saying here.
Yes.
You come to a common ground,
right,
of emotion and of the logical debate. If somebody says, I don't agree with that because it makes me feel bad, that's the extreme I'm talking about. That's just
right. Yeah, and I guess that's kind of what I'm saying too, is I don't think like feelings should never play a part in anything, because obviously God gave us feelings, God gave us emotions. That's all for a reason. It's just when we lead with that.
Correct.
Right?
But
like to take the
be, if I was to say that just doesn't make sense to me, I don't understand that, so yeah, it can't be right.
Right.
Well, that's the same extreme.
Right, exactly.
And unfortunately, I lean that way too often.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you know, like we study the scriptures and we study Christianity and we look at that stuff. And I've gotten to the point now where I'll read something and I can get up and walk away from it and say, you know what? I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. And that's okay.
Yes.
Like I want to understand, I want an answer, but I'd rather not have an answer than try to make something up that is going to make me feel like I understand it. And that's what I come across in a lot of Bible studies. And I may have told you the story already, but I had a time where I don't remember what the subject was now. I think it had something to do with something from Greek or something I was sharing in a Bible study forum, like a Zoom meeting like this, and with like 5 or 6, 7 other guys. And I was explaining, this is, the text says this, and here's why, and I was kind of breaking it down, and why this means this, and one of the guys in the group kind of responded, and he says, well, I just want everybody in the room to know that, in this group to know that there's other people that don't believe what Ryan just said. And I was like, okay, I'm sure that's true. But is that where you're stopping with that? Like,
right. Did he bring up why or what?
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what matters, right? Because if someone says, well, Ryan might be wrong here and here's why. Let me show you why what Ryan's saying about scripture is wrong. I'm all for that. I'm all for being corrected in that way. But just telling me that somebody thinks differently, what good does that do anybody? It does nothing. I said, I can go find 50 people that say God doesn't exist. Does that mean that we should all just say, well, I guess he doesn't. All right, guys, Bible study's over. We learned. Yeah. It's it. There's no God.
There's somebody who disagrees with that, so it can't be right.
Right, exactly. Right, because it's more important is the why. Yeah. Right? Not the what or the who. Who cares? That doesn't make any difference. It's like, why is that wrong? Why is that right? Yeah.
Especially in that format where you already come up with the supporting information to prove this says this.
Right.
Well, would you come at me with nothing?
Right. Right. But I mean, like I was saying, to me, it's much better to say, I don't know. One of the big ones that I think you and I were together in this way back when was the whole John 20, the whole thing, Jesus breathed and said, receive the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Or this whole thing, and the whole debate was, well, do they receive the Holy Spirit in John 21 or did they receive it in Acts chapter 2? It was, because if they received it in both places, then Acts chapter 2 is a second experience, right? And that's what you need. Once you're saved, now you need the shot of the Holy Spirit. Now you need that power from on high, And it was this whole debate, and I think it was Bill that had mentioned a story about him being in a Bible study like that. And he said, and the one side went on and on and on. No, they didn't receive the Holy Spirit then. And the other side went on and on. Yes, they did receive the Holy Spirit. And he said he just sat there quietly, and then they finally asked him, well, what do you think? And he says, all right, everybody that believes that Jesus breathed, raise your hand. And all the hands went up. And he says, all right, everybody that believes that Jesus said the words, receive the Holy Spirit. All the hands went up. He says, okay. And they're like, well, what do you mean? That doesn't answer the question. He said, exactly. It doesn't tell you. The answer you're seeking is not in that text.
Right.
And that blew my mind. That opened up a whole new world for me, because sometimes that's the way it is. You just have to look at it and say, well, you know what? I can break down that text as far as I can, and I can tell you exactly what it says. But that doesn't mean I understand it. It doesn't mean I have every answer to every question that's going to be asked about that text.
Right.
I can only say what is there. I can't make something be there that's not there. Right.
Right. And that's a great example, because, I still maintain that you could have him never see the Spirit there and then in Acts chapter 2 and not be a second experience type of thing.
Okay.
So, but the problem we always had was that there was two factions. And if you believe this, and you have to be believing that it was this other experience type of thing.
Right. Like a Pentecostal kind of thing.
Exactly. And that's like, we never held that position. But the funny thing was, I think it was you that pointed out something that kind of corrected that whole question anyway. Because somewhere in Acts before 2 says they had not yet received the Spirit. So they're waiting around in the room.
Right.
So the question was answered just somewhere else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think there's an answer to the question, but it was not in just that one section.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think you'd point that out to me at one point. I was like,
yeah. So, yeah, fun times, man. I love talking about the past. Those were some good old days, man.
They were good days.
That was like the best days of my Christian life back then. the Golden Shop, the Golden Donut Bible study group days. Those were the days.
The Golden Donut.
I still I go in there sometimes in the mornings, and I always kind of look around, see if any of those same guys are. I mean, because a lot of those guys were so old. I bet a lot of them have passed on by now. But do you remember that? You were there the morning that guy came in and called the cops on us?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember that? And then a lot of the old guys that were the regulars in there started defending us to that guy.
Yeah, even
they're like, hey, you've gone too far, Even
the lady that was there.
Oh, the owner, right?
Yeah, she was on our side, and then we ended. We decided the right thing to do was to change the Panera Bread. We went to Panera for that
Yeah. Well, I made that decision, I think, and I know a lot of people were kind of like, dude, that's like surrender. That's giving up. But I think for me, it was such an anxiety-inducing thing to think to myself, I don't want to deal with this moron every time we go in here and try to, what's he going to do? Is he going to want to fight us now? Is he going to want to, you know what I mean? Like,
right. And I think you were right in that decision, and not for the same reasons that maybe you were making it, but I think it was the right choice. Even from a standpoint of being, a witness, if you want to say, just walking around and just our behavior,
right?
How we respond to certain circumstances was either out of arrogance and bullheadedness. We're just coming back anyway.
Right.
Fine, you don't want us here? We can go somewhere else.
Yeah, but what's funny too, and I think about this sometimes. I bet that guy thought about us a lot after that day.
Yeah,
because we never came back there again after that, and he probably thought about us all the time. And part of me was like, I wonder if he felt triumphant, like, oh, I did it. The cops wouldn't throw him out of there, but they didn't come back. I got him. Right.
Or do you sit there and think, well, they technically won that day, but they just chose not to come back after all. So, how do you perceive that?
Right. Yes, exactly. Like, why would they not come back if the cops didn't tell him to leave?
Yeah.
The owner didn't tell him to leave, right? Because that was my whole thing from the owner's perspective. It's like we were like 5 or 6, 7 guys. We'd all get coffee, hot chocolate, donuts. Like we probably spend 30 something bucks in there every week. And then you got this one guy who gets a cup of coffee for 90 cents, and you expect he's the one that's going to stay while we leave. I don't think so. But I love the one morning, the guy, he walked in or something, we just walked in and he was already sitting over there, and he stood up and he goes, well, I'm out of here. Yeah. I don't have to deal with this crap anymore or something. And Kevin was there, and Kevin looks at him, he goes, are you talking about us? Right. And of course, Kevin's like this massive guy. Like if you don't know Kevin, he can be scary, right? Like I wouldn't want to be on Kevin's bad side, Yeah. And the guy's like, yeah, I was talking about you or whatever. And I was like, oh, here we go. Yeah. It's so funny, man. Good times.
We had a lot of people there, a lot of characters there.
We did. Hey, you remember that Jehovah's Witness guy that came in and was hanging out with us for a couple weeks in a row?
Yep.
And then I don't know if you remember this part or not, but then eventually, because that guy, his mind was turning.
Yeah.
Like he was a cool guy. He was thinking about, like, he's the kind of guy we were just talking about. He was almost open to the truth. Like, and then the head honcho came down that one morning. He was all uptight. He's like, oh, I heard you've been talking to my friend here. It's like, hey, dude, just relax. When you want to sit down with us and, hang out. And he was all upset, like you could tell that maybe, I forgot the guy's name. Was it Jerry? Something like that. That maybe he was telling him, hey, I've been talking to these guys over here at the donut shop and they're bringing up some good points, making some good points here. And the guy's like, oh, uh-oh, I better run in there. And, it's like,
we got interference. We got to run interference.
Yeah, that was terrible. So fun, dude. All right. So 2 things that you've mentioned that I wrote down here, I want to kind of talk about a little bit. Where do you stand on capital punishment?
Honestly, from a religious standpoint, I think that it'd be a terrible punishment.
Okay.
If somebody would be killed unsaved,
right,
and go through torture. But we can talk about this later because my views of hell are different than probably yours now.
Oh, okay.
But I think from a worldly perspective, it's an easy out. Having been incarcerated, I know the torture and torment that's involved in that. So you're almost giving them always there's fear of dying and everything, but I think that for most people, so that's just from the perspective of the person, going through it. I honestly used to be pro capital punishment. I think these days I'm probably not.
Okay. Is it because you figure they might have longer, if they're in jail for 50, 60 years, they have a chance to receive the Lord while they're in jail, and you're seeing that from a spiritual lens?
No, I think that's not going to hinder the Lord's work in that person.
Okay.
And I think, I lean towards that, we respond to the light coming into the world, as it says in John, so that, the process has begun no matter what. So I don't think there's a point where you just say the prayer, make the decision, and then you're in type of thing. So I don't think that's going to hinder any kind of spiritual work going on in that person that's going to save them or not.
Yeah.
I don't think we can stop that process or cut it short.
Right. Like you don't think if someone's, say, executed in the electric chair and all of a sudden the Lord's up there going, man, I was going to save that guy and you guys just ruined everything.
He was next on my list too. You guys missed by one. If you just waited a minute.
Right. Exactly. And I agree with you on that for sure. I don't think we have the power to change God's sovereignty. Right. So.
Right. But I also don't think that we have the authority to take another human's life either.
Okay.
As a punishment.
As a punishment.
As a punishment.
Self-defense. You think that would be okay? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And I can tell you right now, if somebody was threatening my family or even myself, I would put them down in a quick without even a second thought.
Right. Yeah. As would I think, but I think I would still struggle with the effects of that later on, knowing that I took a life.
Yeah. I mean, having killed several people myself, I can tell you something like that.
Well, we haven't gotten into your incarceration yet, so for all we know, you're a serial killer or something. Video. Yeah. You see, you're like confessing all that stuff that I see like behind you on the screen. These cops bust through your door and carry you off in cuffs.
My face pressed up against the camera.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. We'll get into that when I ask you for your testimony in the next section for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of hold the same view. I think it's, I don't really know where I stand on it, to be honest with you. I do hold what you just said. I think that the Lord is in control of all. But again, I say I probably maybe lean towards more of the capital punishment side. Mm-hmm. But then if someone were to ask me, okay, Ryan, would you want that job? Would you be the one to flip the switch on the chair? Would you be the one to administer the lethal injection? Do you want to do that? I'd be like, nope, I don't. Because then I might feel like, well, what if I'm accountable? What if that's the wrong thing? What if God's like, you shouldn't be killing people? What are you doing? Yes, he's a horrible serial killer, child rapist, whatever. But I always think to myself, the Lord has the ability to strike that person down at any moment. Mm-hmm. At a snap of the fingers, piece of cake. He could remove that man from the planet at any point. Right? So if he doesn't, I'm like, well, who am I to step in and do that? But I think as a society, it is our job in a sense to remove that person from society so that they cannot do that anymore. Correct. Right? They can no longer harm children. They can no longer harm women. Or whatever their crime is, And
in our society, unfortunately, we're supporting them through that process now.
Right. Through taxes and stuff, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's coming out of everybody's pockets.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And that's, and I've never been in jail. Jail scares me to death.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would probably rather die than go to jail. Like, really, I'm that scared of it.
That was my point earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. It's frightening for a guy like me I'm not a fighter. I'm not you know me. I have anxiety issues. I'm like all these things. I would be that guy that was just totally, what's the word I'm looking for? Like attacked, bagged on. I would be the guy that everybody was going after, unless I was somehow able to secure some like tough guy in there or something. Like I could, I don't know. I'd be that guy. Like, hey man, you got to protect me, and I'll do whatever. I mean, not whatever, but you know what I mean.
Just join a group. Find the holy rollers and join them, and
right.
All right.
Yeah, maybe right. Find a big burly ex gang member guy who's just the toughest guy in there, but is now a born again Christian or something, Well,
they have, I hate to call it gangs because they call it politics and when you're in jail, but they have a group that are like the religious, they call them holy rollers. The other people call them holy rollers or whatever, but you can be a part of those people. And then you kind of have that level of protection. You're with somebody, you're not singled out. You're not
right.
Not that there's still problems, but yeah, I mean, so that it's, you'd get by, you'd make it.
Okay. Well, good. Thanks, man. You gave me reassurance. Now I think I'll go.
Go rob that bank you're thinking about.
Yeah. Now I'll just do it. I'll do what I've always been wanting to do. Yeah. But so it's one of those things that, it's funny. I said I would lean more towards capital punishment side, but as I'm talking out loud, I'm thinking maybe I don't lean that way. Now that I'm realizing it's more, I maybe do lean more towards just let God deal with it. Like remove them from society. Don't let them harm anybody else. But then you get into this whole thing about all these repeat offenders. Like you got people, they get let off for good behavior or whatever, and then they kill somebody else or they rape somebody else or whatever,
Yeah, you take a life and you save 3. So
right, exactly. So, and that's always the question, right? That's the question that's been brought up. Like if you had the ability to take Hitler out, or to even take Hitler's mom out when she was pregnant with him or whatever, like, would you do it? Like it's one of those weird kind of philosophical questions of like, you would have saved the lives of millions of people.
Right. If
you did that. Yeah. You'd be taking the life of 1, or 2, technically, if Hitler's in the womb. But would that be worth it? I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that one either.
Not knowing the plan.
Right.
And there was somebody that held up, it was a speaker. I forget who it was. I have no idea. But he had a picture of a baby put it on the screen. And he says, huh?
No, I'm listening.
Oh, okay. He says, he goes, who would kill this baby right now? And nobody raised their hand. He goes, now what if I told you there's a picture of baby Hitler, which it turned out to actually be.
Oh.
Killed that baby. And people were looking around, some people raised their hands, some people didn't. It's like, it was it made you think.
Yeah.
At what point is it okay to kill Hitler?
Wow. That brings the abortion debate into a whole new light.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Not knowing what the ultimate plan is for even something that horrible to have happened.
Right.
Who are we to do it?
Right. Well, I think for me, the scenario would have to be that, though. It would have to be you have the knowledge you have.
Correct.
Like as you and I sit here today, we have the history. We know what Hitler did. We've seen all that. We've seen the concentration camps. We've seen all this stuff. Then to be able to get in a time machine and go back to when his mom was pregnant with him, then would you take her out?
But still, not knowing what God's plan is for that whole thing.
Right.
What would you actually do?
Yes.
On a spiritual level, that would be wrong.
Yeah.
Who knows?
See, that's such a fantastic outlook of it because, and no, hardly anybody's going to say what you just said.
Right.
But you are flat out right because we jump in and say, oh no, that whole thing with Hitler, that was out of God's control. Like somehow that was satanic. God just, Satan was able to do things God didn't want him to do or whatever. It's like, what kind of a puny God do you have? Like, if you want to believe in the God of the Bible, you have to realize that something like the Holocaust happened under God's watch.
Yeah.
Now, take that as you may. I know there's a lot of people that's exactly the reason why they don't believe in God. because they say, I can't believe in a God that would allow the Holocaust to happen. I can't believe in a God that would allow a child rapist to rape young children. I just can't believe in a God like that. But like what you said, we have no idea what the ultimate purpose and plan is in the long run for all of that, because God knows everything. He's got knowledge, past, present, future, that we can only dream of having, that we're never going to have it. You know, he sees into the hearts of men, the hearts of women, the hearts of children. He knows everything. Right? Like it's just, that's what we need to realize. I keep bringing this up because it's recent to me. It's recent to me. I don't know how recent it is, but the whole Neil deGrasse Tyson there's a clip going around right now. Did you see this? I don't know what he was on.
I haven't seen it. I don't like the guy, so I don't watch it.
I'm not a big fan either. But he was basically, somebody had asked him, I don't remember what show he was on, but somebody asked him if he believes in the Christian God. They were very specific, or the God of the Bible, or I forgot exactly how it was worded. And he said, well, here's my problem. He said, the Bible presents God as both all loving and all powerful. He says, but there's no way that he can be both. Right? The whole idea is like, well, how can a God of love allow all these terrible things to happen if he has the power to stop them with all powerfulness and he doesn't? Therefore, I don't believe. You know, it's always the same.
That question perfectly. How many years ago when you said, you know, just knowing what love means.
Yes.
And then the fact you brought this to my attention. You said, you know, if you know your child had to go through a horrible accident that maimed them and paralyzed them for the rest of their lives to be saved, would you let that happen?
Right.
I mean, that was a big wow for me. It was like, whoa, yeah.
Because the answer is yes, right? The answer is yes. If you know that's the only way, right? Yeah.
It's a yes. And so, and the results of that happening to somebody, or even your own child, and it affected somebody else, that led to salvation. You know, again, God has that plan that we can't see. So I wouldn't believe in a God that wasn't all loving and all powerful.
Right.
But not all lovey-dovey.
Right. Right, exactly. Because we translate love today to mean do everything that I like.
Right.
No pain, no suffering, everything that makes me feel good. That would be love.
Right.
And even that has been translating into families and parents that are like, oh, well, I love my kid, therefore I give them whatever they ask for all the time. Correct. Well, then you hate them. I hate to break it to you, but that means you hate your kids.
That means you hate your children.
What do you mean I hate my kids? What are you talking about? Well, you can't just, because life isn't that way. They're going to get out in the real world and they're going to start yelling at their boss because their boss, what do you mean I can't sit here on my phone for an hour and a half while you pay me on the clock? What are you talking about? You know, who do you think you are? You know, and that's why we've got these entitled little brats running around everywhere, you know, and that's a problem, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So we touched on a little bit. The last thing I want to touch on before we move into spirituality stuff is the transgender issue. I know we did talk about it somewhat extensively towards the beginning, but I never really kind of got your take on the whole idea of it. Like, do you think, I know you talked about how you kind of hold my stance. It sounds like where you're like, oh, hey, someone wants to believe they're a unicorn. No problem. You go off in fairyland and believe you're a unicorn. That's fine, whatever. But don't come to me and tell me that I have to treat you like a unicorn. Right. Because now you've invaded my space. Now you've crossed into my life and you're saying you need to do this. But usually when I bring up this example, people on the other side will say, well, Ryan, but it's not as difficult as all that. Is it really that so hard for you to say she went and got the lemonade? Is it really like such a big deal? It changes your life so much, Ryan. Like, it just, out of respect, can't you just use the proper pronouns? You know, and I'm always like,
Well, but it's not that cut and dry either, because, you know, they've got us walking on eggshells. You don't know what to call somebody half the time until they tell you, call me a they or an it or a whatever.
Right.
You know, they're going through Dr. Seuss books trying to figure out what to call themselves. Yes, if you want to be called a she, I don't know what I would do in that circumstance, but I don't know that I'd have a huge problem with it. If you want to be called a she,
okay.
It boils down to the fact that I don't think it's right anyway. I think they're not right in the head, and especially when it comes down to, you know, minors.
Right.
But,
right.
It's the whole, you know, I don't even know what to call them. I don't want to misgender somebody.
Right. Right.
You know, I shouldn't have to worry about that or think about that.
Yeah.
it's gotten to a point where I have to sit there and be on eggshells and think about this all the time, where they just, walk around saying, oh, I'm this, that, and the other, and you better tell me that.
Right. Right. And where's the limit, right? I mean, where's the line there? Because if we're just going to open it up and say, and I've said before, I think that is my main issue, is when we open that door. And again, I'm not saying it's the same what I'm saying, but when you open a door that says we need to treat people and respond to them in life as whatever they believe in their minds is true. Even if what they believe in their minds doesn't line up with science, doesn't line up with biology, doesn't line up with factual things, we still need to treat them that way. That can go anywhere. Like, it's the same argument about the 65 thing, right? The Ben Shapiro thing. Well, why can't you identify as 65 and go get your Social Security check? Yeah. It's the same concept, the same argument that I would use and say, no, you don't understand. I'm in here, I'm 65. And they're saying, no, biologically, your driver's license says you're 45. No, I don't care. You need to go by what I believe in here. But I use that example and they say, Ryan, that's so stupid. That's not even the same. We're talking about gender. It's not even the same thing. Yes, but the concept is the same. It's the same argument. If you're going to say, I need to call you a she because you believe it in your mind, is no different than me saying, give me my Social Security check because I believe I'm 65 in my mind. It's the exact same argument, So,
and you can't say that I believe I'm a she, but still have, prostate cancer and say, that shouldn't be possible because I'm a she.
Right. Or an Adam's apple, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that episode. Did you ever watch Friends?
I did watch it. Yes.
Oh, it was one of the early episodes where Joey's talking about, he's like, oh man, I was making out with this girl and it was just the weirdest thing because she had the hugest Adam's apple and it was just really, and then all the friends are kind of looking at each other like, do you want to tell him or should I? And they're like, Joey, women don't have Adam's apples.
Oh.
But anyway,
the rib though. Count the ribs.
Yeah. So, I mean, and a lot of time the argument is, why are you just trying to boil people down to their parts? You're just trying to boil people down to their parts. I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. Maybe there's some out there that are doing that. I'm not doing that. But does that mean, are the only two options, either we're boiling people down to their parts or we're just pretending like parts mean nothing? Is that the only two options? Or is there somewhere in the middle there where we say, no, we're not just penises and vaginas. That's not all we are.
Right.
But that is kind of a big part of what we are.
Right. We are the sum of what we're made up of. I mean, you'd still.
Right.
All the parts equal a whole.
Right. Yeah.
It's
exactly.
definable. That's the thing.
Yes.
So just for the record, that's my stance, is the fact I think that is what they're doing is wrong. I think it's a mental condition that's getting exacerbated by society.
Right.
And it shouldn't be forced to change my behavior, my vocabulary, my vernacular, anything to support that.
Right.
But if they've already made that choice and that decision and they're of age and of mental state to do so, so be it. Do your thing.
Right. But you think that has a limit with age? You think like only for adults? You don't think we should? You wouldn't say that about a 13. Like if you saw a story of two parents that are totally for their kid being trans and they're, we support, her and her whole thing. And she wears dresses and lipstick and, we're looking at the possible puberty blockers and we're looking at maybe some, breast removal or whatever needs to happen for like permanent things. You wouldn't say that then. You're saying if it's an adult that's deciding, hey, I want to live my life as a sex opposite or gender opposite than what I was born as, you're like, okay, that's up to you. Yeah. But I don't believe in that. I don't think you actually are what you're claiming to be, Right. Okay.
And, and I would be, as controversial to say that they should set that age limit a lot higher than say 18.
Yeah.
Probably even higher than 20. I'd say maybe 25 would be the bare minimum.
Yeah. Well, especially because they say that's when the brain fully reaches its capacity. Like it's full functioning with men. I think it's 25. With women, I think it's a little younger, 21, 22.
I wasn't aware of that, but that was more so than in support of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why most of it can say most of the stupid things we've done was before we were 25. See, if you really think about it.
Well, I wish I could say that.
It doesn't mean I've never done anything stupid after.
I guess it's even. So, I've been consistent. I've been consistently stupid. So Brain finish.
Yeah. I'm too stupid to talk to you. Is that the UPS one?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the weight and the girth? I don't know the weight, and I don't know what girth means.
Exactly.
Okay, goodbye.
Slow down, Mr. Wizard.
Yeah. I told you I got to see him, right?
No, I don't know if you did.
Yeah, I went. He played at the that outdoor theater in Solvang a couple months back. Yeah, me and my friend went to see it. It was great. It's awesome, hilarious.
That's so funny.
And surprisingly, a lot of it was new.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, because I've heard just about every special that he's put out. I mean, maybe not the last two. I think I haven't seen. So maybe that was why. Maybe a lot of it was from the newer ones that I haven't seen. But he did a couple that I think there's just two things that I remember from other ones. But yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I used to go to when we were living up in the Washington area. I used to go to comedy clubs, Giggles and the Underground Comedy Underground. And a lot of times, artists of that caliber would come through there unannounced to try out new material.
Okay,
so great, because I got to saw a lot of comedians live that normally wouldn't have had a chance to see because I didn't have to pay for it. I was already there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so we get a chance to go over to Western Washington, man. It's they're in Seattle, both of them, but it's really a cool experience.
Okay, both those clubs are still there?
Yes, as far as I know.
Okay. Have you not been back there since? So you're talking like pre-Santa Maria. Well, no, because you were here. I always forget, like you bounced back and forth so many times. Like, because when I met you in Santa Maria, that was the second time you were living in this area, right?
Right. And
you came from Washington.
I went back to visit, went to the Comedy Underground since then, but I hadn't ever moved back to Washington.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And now you're in Idaho.
Now I'm in Idaho,
which you love.
I couldn't say more good things about it. Right now, looking out the window. The people here are great. It's definitely conservative.
Yes.
Area, which is nice. Yeah. And despite the weather, it is a neat area.
Yeah. I think it was the number one, at least a few years ago, it was ranked the number one conservative state in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite often they are. And it's funny because it's an open carry state. So you can be in the grocery store and church and see people with just guns just hanging on their hip everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Male or female, don't matter. My wife's one of them. She'll walk around with a gun hanging off her hip.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. No, and you wouldn't want to mess with her anyway, but.
Oh man. Yeah.
I don't know if I told you this, and this could be just between you and me, or it could be for on air.
Yeah.
When her and I first started dating and everything, and then we were getting married, she was in the bathroom. She was going to take a shower or something, and I poked my head in by the door before she got undressed in the shower, and just poked my head in to be funny, and then she had her back to the door, so I just stood there and I waited. She turned around and as fast as lightning screamed and reached out and grabbed my throat with both hands and started squeezing.
Oh my gosh.
And she realized it was me. She's like, "Oh, I didn't know that was you."
And at that moment you said, "I'm going to marry this girl."
Exactly. I don't have to worry about her. She can handle herself. And I still have one eyeball that still pokes out a little bit farther than the other.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's too funny, man. Yeah, she's a tough one.
Yeah.
Not that I know her that well. Don't know her that well, but what I do know of her is I'm glad I'm on her good side. That's all I'll say.
Yes, she's. I like that about her. She's definitely genuine, and she's got a strong will.
Right. All right, man. Spirituality time.
All right.
You ready to hop in? Need a break? You good?
I'm just stretching my legs, so I'm good.
All right.
I'm not good at sitting for long periods of time.
Yeah. I'm not either. Yet I do that for my work all the time.
Yeah.
It's really what I do. It's probably how I got so fat.
Yeah. I'm just.
It's like, oh, what do you do for a living, Ryan? Well, I sit down and I don't move for 8 hours a day. Yeah. And then my second job, I sit in my car and I drive around. So,
with food.
And then my podcasting job, I sit down and I talk to people. Yeah. So,
So after all that long day's work, I go sit down.
It's right. Yeah, exactly. I come home. What do you do? I sit down and watch TV. Exactly. Or whatever, All right, so let's jump into some spiritual talk discussion.
All right.
This is obviously this is kind of the realm that you and I are most alike. Well, not alike, but I mean, we're obviously going to share a lot of the same core beliefs here. And this is probably this is what started our friendship. This is what's continued our friendship. This is kind of what we do and who we are. Like we exist in the spiritual realm, at least try to.
Agreed.
Yeah. So again, I'm going to ask, like I do every believer I have on this show, is kind of walk me through a brief history of the salvation of Justin Chamberlain.
A brief history. Well, as you know, and from talking to my brother on a previous podcast, is my family was not religious growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was married quite a few times, and we moved a lot. I mean, until my high school years, I was never went to the same school 2 years in a row, and sometimes 2 or 3. So, making friends and even making any type of foundational anything in my life was real difficult because I didn't have any, grounds for it.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom moved here to Idaho, where the same town we live in now.
Okay.
And she had met this gal who kind of led her to go to church and whatnot. And we started going, and I never was a believer back then. And I there's no doubt in my mind.
Right.
And so one day my mom says she was going to go because we're going to a Baptist church, and getting saved was going to the front and telling people you're going to be saved now. That was what it was. I mean, you say your prayer, then you got baptized later.
Yeah.
And that was
Altar call kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went up, we did it, and I went and sat down. That was it, and got baptized later, and still went, and nothing came of it for me.
Right.
My brother was saved that day, apparently, according to him.
Okay.
So, but we went and lived our lives still, and we still moved around, and we were living in an area near here, and I was probably 13 or 14 at the time. And my mom got divorced from her husband at the time, and we moved to Santa Maria.
Mm-hmm.
And she started going to Calvary Chapel there, and it was meeting at the YMCA with folding chairs and
nice.
Ariel Elizondo.
Yeah.
And he was a keyboardist and a saxophonist, which I also happened to be.
Okay.
So I thought that was really cool. And so I'd go and play with the worship team, and then go hang out in youth group.
So you already were a keyboardist and saxophonist at that time when you met Elizondo? Okay.
Just learning still, but that was a good experience for me.
Okay.
Because I played the saxophone while he played the piano, so that was really great. We would collaborate a lot together.
Okay.
Larry Elizondo and I would.
Yeah.
And then Maria Haberman, you remember her?
Oh yeah.
She was teaching the youth group back then, so I got to know her real well.
Oh no way! I didn't realize you went that far back with her.
Yeah, and so she was real pivotal in music to me back then because she was a music lover. But she was listening to people like Carmen and DC Talk and trying to think of some of the others. And so she would give me these cassettes to borrow and listen to, and I'd check them out, and a lot of it was good. I mean, DC Talk was really cool.
Yeah.
Carmen, I actually dug a lot of his stuff, not a lot of his religious ideas, but I didn't know what they were then, so I didn't care.
Right.
So we did that for a while. My mom got really involved in that. And then I started going to school there, and we started getting to have friends and everything, and got established. And so she moved back to Washington while I was in high school.
Okay.
And I had no plan. I said, I'm not going. I'm done moving.
You wanted to stay in Santa Maria?
Yeah. So I stayed in Santa Maria, and so I got emancipated from my mom. Which was all that meant was I could sign my own absentee excuses and everything else.
Right. And you're how old at this point? 17, 18? 17.
16, 17. So between 16 and 17. I don't remember exactly how old I was.
Okay.
You had to be 16 to be emancipated. So
right.
I was at least 16.
Okay. And if you're 18, there's no point because you're already a legal adult. Okay. Yeah. See that? I'm smart.
SMRT. I mean, SMRT.
I are smart.
So, being on my own was a huge mistake because I'm a moron.
Yeah.
So I was just getting into a lot of trouble staying with friends and what. Ended up renting this house from this lady and just kept going off the rails, got involved in drugs and everything else, and wrong crowd. So I decided to move back after getting into a lot of legal trouble in Santa Maria, California area. I moved back to Washington to be near family and everything. And that, they always say wherever you go, you're still there. Well, that was the case with me too.
Right.
We got a lot more trouble there and got involved with drugs real heavy. This is making a real long story short.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's a lot more to this.
Got involved with forgery, counterfeiting, you name it, and ended up going to jail and was looking at a 27-year federal prison sentence. So that's what it was. And they had already seized my house and all the stuff. So they had everything they needed, and so I was trying everything I could do to get out on bail because I was still in jail, not transferred to the prison yet. And so I was trying to get out on bail, waiting for my court hearing because I was going to skip the country. I mean, I was making fake IDs. I could have easily done it. And I was, started reading the Bible when I was in there because I grabbed a Bible at the book cart with some other books and I just started reading it. And I'll never forget, I was on the bottom bunk and I was just reading scripture and it was becoming clear to me. I was like, this is more to this than just words on a page and stories.
Right.
And in that moment, the Lord saved me. I mean, I literally stood up and the Lord just saved me right there on a, jail cot.
Wow.
And so then I went to chapel that week and, I didn't know the system. All I knew was the Baptist church is supposed to, say you want to be saved. Well, chapel that week, they were playing the Passion of the Christ by Mel Gibson.
Oh, okay. And
so that's what they were watching the movie. And so I just, it was already playing the movie. And I was like, I wanted to be saved. So I didn't know what the system was. So I just raised my hand. What do you want? And I was like, I want to be saved. I want to say the prayer, whatever it is, and I want to be saved.
Right.
You guys go, really? Another kid that was in there with me, he says, yeah, me too. And we both stood up. He prayed with us. And that was the moment that I became saved. The Spirit entered me. And And then I spent all that time trying to get out so I could skip the country. And I was like, you know what? I'm guilty. I did this.
Yeah.
So I accepted it. I told everybody, hey, quit trying to get me out. Just stop. I told my mom that. I told my family that. I did it.
Right.
I'm where I'm supposed to be. I belong here.
Yeah.
And I'll take it. And then a weird loophole about a week later got me out free. I mean, literally, I was out on a loophole, a very strange loophole that I wasn't even looking for. And they said, you're free.
So they just contacted you and said, hey, just so you know, we're letting you out.
The state, well, I didn't know at the time. Okay. I had no idea. So basically what it was they seized all that counterfeiting material, counterfeit money, IDs, identities, everything I was doing, they had seized. But I was being evicted from where I was living. And so they gave me the payer vacates and all these things. Well, they were at a point in that process where I was no longer a legal tenant of that residence. And so that was the loophole. The state had decided to not file against me and go to trial with this because I was not a legal resident. So all the stuff they seized could not be defined as mine. They could not say all this stuff is yours because you weren't a legal tenant of this resident. There's other people staying there as well.
Right.
So they said, okay, we're not going to file on you. So the next thing you know, they said, roll it up, which basically means roll up all your stuff, get your stuff together. You're out of here.
And they just let you out on the street.
Just let me out on the street.
Wow.
Walking free. Wow. So the gal I was with at the time, who ended up being my wife later, we said, we need to get out of here. Let's go. All we knew was a life of crime and everything else. So, our exit strategy wasn't the best, but we packed up what we could and we moved to Santa Maria, what I consider my hometown.
Yeah.
And got a fresh start there.
So was your mom back in Santa Maria?
She was already moved back by then.
Okay.
She was married again.
Okay.
Somebody else. So yeah. In fact, we stayed with her for a short time over there off Lancaster, not too far from.
Oh.
Or not Lancaster, but real nice houses over there.
I don't know. Lancaster's in the neighborhood I grew up in.
Right.
But I don't know about nice houses.
No, that's not. It wasn't Lancaster, but it was started with an L. I forget the name of it. But
okay.
I lived on Lancaster for a while, so that's why. That was,
okay. Okay. That's the neighborhood of champions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was basically it. Went to Santa Maria and then went to church and met you.
Yeah.
So
that's the moment your life just really changed for the better.
That's right. It was the moment. But unfortunately, the troubles didn't stop. But I still got in a lot of trouble and had been incarcerated several times since then.
Yeah. Yeah.
But done.
Yeah. All done now.
All done with that.
All done. Over. Elfine.
What's that?
I said Elfine.
Yeah.
That's that means the end in Espanol, in case you don't speak. In case you don't habla. Okay. All right, man. Well, I've said it a million times. I mean, you got one of the, and I know you don't like me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. You have one of the most amazing testimonies I've ever heard. But again, I don't know that many people, so I guess you're not that special. But it is.
I'm not that special.
It is. It is one of those things. Like to me, I don't really. And it's kind of stupid to compare testimonies because the whole point is you're saved, you're not saved. That's what really matters. But I mean, I always admire people that really have a story where they were literally at the bottom, and the Lord literally grabbed them and pulled them out of the bottom, I guess in a way we can all say that. I mean, because you have to reach a point of spiritual bankruptcy to even realize that you are in need of a savior. And of course we're all going to get there in different ways. But anyway,
that was it's meant to happen for me. And I tell you, even the stuff that happened since, I was never not a believer.
Right.
Even though I made some real bad decisions and got involved in some garbage again.
Right.
But I wouldn't change any of it except for not seeing my girls the way I'd like to.
Right. Obviously.
But so much good has come out of the bad for other people. I feel like, it was the path I had to walk.
Yeah.
I found the biggest moron that was going to get in trouble no matter what he was doing or involved in and how much he believed that was the moron he needed.
Yeah. I might make that the title of the episode.
That's fine. I had the moron he needed.
I was the moron that God needed. All right. Well, let's kind of talk about some of any issues maybe that you see in the church, and I use that term loosely, because you and I both know what the church really is. But I mean, I'm talking about kind of churchianity, kind of like just because what does Paul Washer say? We don't have a lot of churches in America. We have a lot of very nice buildings on finely manicured lawns.
Exactly.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, another shameless plug for Paul Washer.
Yes, I am a fan.
I am not a fan of the church, or we call themselves Christians today.
Right. Yes. So kind of talk about that a little bit. Like, what do you?
Well, a lot of it stems out of, like I said, that level of arrogance when we gain the knowledge, but not the spiritual maturity early on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I disliked Christians more then than I do now, but I still don't like what I call churchians.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ruined the name Christian, I believe, because there's some of these people these days, and we're in the age of the apostate church.
Okay,
we're at a time where the church is not going to endure sound doctrine nor teach it, and I believe that's happening right now. And we have all these people that are sitting in churches that don't want to hear the truth, but they all want to be pastors, and they feel they're called to be pastors.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people that should not be up there teaching anybody, and that's the scariest thing I can think about. What higher standard are you going to be held to? And you're a person that's not even willing to hear truth.
Yeah.
And people that you and I know. I mean, not to mention anybody, but have taken that path, and they're just so reluctant to even hear any type of argument against their doctrine and its doctrine. I mean, denominations are just denominational doctrines, not just doctrine. Because true doctrine, obviously, is
Doctrine is good as long as it's right.
Denominational doctrine. And I was on that path for a long time, even learning, the original languages of Scripture, and still striving to learn more of that to this day, just getting into it, that level.
Right.
It's hard to shake off some of these mainstream church ideas.
Yeah.
And like I said before, I don't view hell the way I did before, nor do I view the end times like the mainstream church does. We've accepted these culminations over the centuries of what we think is the way.
Right.
And I think the churches are way off on so much of this stuff. And if you just sat down at a summary reading, you know, you wouldn't take the doctrine of hell that we have today and glean that there's other views of hell that I think are more substantiated by scripture than the mainstream you're going to burn for eternity.
Yeah. Well, let's go there. Let's go there then, because we already wrote that down anyway. So we'll start with that. Just kind of talk about, tell me where you're at with that. What do you think hell is then?
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, it exists, and Jesus himself said this, you know, it's a terrible thing that we don't want to experience. But the eternity of it is something that I struggle with.
Okay.
And I also struggle with the idea that a God that we have in Scripture, both an angry and loving God, would impose, you know, infinite repercussions for finite crimes.
Right.
You know, I do struggle with that. And I do think that hell is a place of torment in whatever form or fashion it is. But I think ultimately there is an end to that, which was going to culminate in somebody's either annihilation or not to be an nihilist. Or, you know.
Right. But you don't believe it's eternal.
I don't think that's eternally tormenting for humans.
Okay.
That's hard to say. I think hell is eternal. I think the place is eternal, and that, you know, hell.
But you don't think people that aren't saved are going to spend eternity in hell?
Not eternity. No.
Okay.
I think there's going to be a level of torment that's going to change a person spiritually, ultimately, and even hell.
Oh.
Satan.
Okay.
And the demons are going to be cast into the lake of fire, and hell's going to burn up in the lake of fire.
Right.
So if people are being punished for, you know, and are in hell, ultimately they're going to hit the lake of fire. And is that now permanent also?
Well, so Hades is thrown into the lake of fire, right? So some people would call hell Hades, and some people would call the lake of fire hell. So I guess it depends on what we mean by hell.
Okay, so now that's a good point, because Hades and hell are distinctly different.
Right. Well, it's always confusing to me, just because of, you got Gehenna, you got Hades, you got Tartarus or whatever. You got like all these different, it's like, what are we even talking about here? Like it's such a confusing thing, but I know for me, the idea of eternal hell is a hard doctrine to grasp, right? It's hard to believe, you know, because I guess I think to myself, in a human sense, I can think of the worst people on the planet, which to me would be like child rapists, right? There's nobody worse than that, in my opinion. But even them, I don't think I would want them to be tortured for eternity.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think they should be destroyed. I definitely don't think they should be in heaven, you know, but, you know, eternal suffering, that's a little difficult to grasp. But again, the question is not, do I think that's just, do I think that's sound? Do I think that makes me have the warm fuzzies? It's, what does the Bible teach about it? Right. I mean, because, so that's something that I figured as much.
Honestly, I just don't find enough support in Scripture for that viewpoint as I've been taught.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
what I was saying is that we read Scripture and we've been taught that the worm never dies means that hell's eternal. And all these different things that, you know, we add together that don't really make a lot of sense.
Right.
And I've taken it in my personal study to read Scripture at face value, no matter what. I tried to put off what I've been taught, or even what I've gained understanding of on my own.
Right.
Because I think Revelation and end times is pretty clear that a lot of that is not written for us today.
Okay.
You know, I think when you take things at face value more than, you know, picking pieces out of Daniel, picking pieces out of here, out of Thessalonians, and we're going to all add those up to match Revelation, I think we do ourselves an injustice.
Yeah.
And the same with the division of eternal torment and eternal punishment.
Right. Well, I mean, books like Revelation and Daniel and Isaiah and Ezekiel, like these, whenever anybody tries to come to a guaranteed consensus on these books and what they're teaching, I'm like, you just can't do it. Like it's just, it's all symbolism. It's all this stuff. I mean, sure, maybe they're making good points. Oh, and this seems to symbolize this and this, but can you ever really come to a definite, like, yep, we're sure this, when this is talking about this, it definitely is referring to this. No, you can't, because it doesn't say it, you know? So that's where I'm like, I love reading Revelation, Ezekiel. Those are cool books to read, but I'm not looking for doctrine in there. You know, I'm not looking for something I can stand on solidly, you know? So
I'd rather be in the I don't know camp.
Right. Right. Exactly.
I really would.
Yeah. But there was a guy, episode, I think it was episode 3 of season 1 that I had on, and I still haven't read this book. I got to read this book. It was a book by Edward Fudge, I think his name was, which is an awesome name. Yeah. And the book was called The Fire That Consumes. And the guest I had on says that that's the book that convinced him that hell is not like that. Hell is not eternal. Hell is not a place of eternal punishment, you know? Uh-huh. So it's like, okay. And I'm intrigued by that. I definitely want to read it. I just haven't yet.
Right. There's another book by a guy. It's called The Three Views of Hell. And he purports to present 3 biblical views of hell. Mm-hmm. And he himself said that he doesn't feel that the traditional view is supported as the other 2. Mm-hmm. I haven't read the book yet, so I don't know, but I found that something I wanted to read as well.
Mm. Well, what I will say is I hope, like from a human standpoint, I hope that's true.
Yeah.
Like I hope that, because again, I'm not trying to sit here and say that, well, I disagree with God, therefore God's wrong. No, God's God, right? Whatever he does for a reason. He knows what he's doing.
Correct.
You know, but from a human stance, it makes me feel better to know that hell's not an eternal place, especially because I know I have plenty of family members. I have plenty of close friends that are all going there, or they're all there now, you know? So it's hard to even grasp that. This is also why something like Calvinism is so hard to grasp. Again, from a human standpoint, not that I believe in Calvinism, but just first of all, the idea of eternal hell is hard enough. Right. But then to throw in a doctrine that says, oh, and it has nothing to do with you. God just chooses who doesn't get to go there, and everyone else just goes there just because he doesn't choose them. It's like, dude, what? Like, that's a little difficult, you know?
God's ways are not our ways, so don't question it.
Right. Which is true, you know,
right.
but
none of that. Yeah. So, I mean, from a human standpoint, I would like to believe that myself, but
yeah,
I'd rather err on the side of caution.
Yeah. I mean, I want to err on the side of God. I mean, I want to be like, whatever God says is what I'm going to take as again, because he knows infinitely more than I ever will.
Right.
And he loves people more than I ever could. Mm-hmm. Right. So if I'm going to sit here in my finite human mindset and be like, you know what, God, that just doesn't seem fair. You know, you must not really love anybody if you're just sending people to hell, because that sounds very unloving. And then we get back into the definition of love and the lovey-dovey and the whole thing. You know, it's like, God, instead of hugging people, you're sending them to hell. That doesn't sound very loving, you know? Right. So, yeah. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, you're right. I didn't know that you kind of, well, at what point did you kind of develop that view of hell?
That would probably be about 5 years ago. I started, you know, this journey that I'm on now as far as face value versus, you know, because even, you know, learning with Bill and everything out there, there was a lot of Calvary ideals that kind of crept in because of his background.
Right.
And a lot of stuff that still seemed very denominational to me.
Yeah.
That I could break free from. And so now, even as Terry and I read in the morning, I'm just trying to just with an open mind read things.
Yeah.
And not put any type of, you know, preconceived spin on any of it.
Yeah. Which is almost impossible, right? I mean, it's
hard to do.
Yeah.
But if you sit there and you ask yourself, just constantly asking questions, like we've been in Philippians, and, you know, it talks about, you know, he who's begun a good work will be faithful to complete it, you know. well, then you have to understand what good means. And you look that up. It's like, okay, then it talks about, bad later.
Right.
And in the same chapter. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, if you just take that one little verse,
right,
pluck it out.
Yeah.
It sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I forgot the guy's name now. He wrote a book. I have it. It's a cool book. You should check it out if you can, but it's called, oh wait, no, wait. Is it a book or is it just something he says? Anyway, it says, never read a Bible verse.
Oh.
And you're like, wait, what? Never read a Bible verse, but his whole point is don't just read a Bible verse.
Right.
Right. Like all the verses around it are very, very important to the understanding of that verse itself, So, what are you holding up there, dude? You got some notes here?
I'm just writing down the name of the book.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what it's called. I'll when we're done, I'll actually just send you a picture I'll take a picture of the cover of it and send it to you.
Cool. Okay.
But it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool book.
Well, we had that example early on with the whole, ask God for wisdom. You don't just read that verse and pluck it out.
Yeah.
Or the Great Commission. You don't just pluck out, go.
Right. Yet so many do. Right. And this is why we get back into the idea of churchianity, and we get back into this whole, denominations and all this stuff. And this is something that over the last couple months I've really been struggling with, is like, I'm just like, churchy stuff is just, I'm so sick and tired of churchy stuff. I don't like churchy people. I know this sounds bad. This sounds terrible. I have friends, people I consider friends, that have changed drastically over the last few years to become more churchy.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a good way. Like, it sounds like it should be a good thing. Oh, the guy goes to church more. That's great. No, because if they're becoming more churchy, and what I mean by that is like more engrossed in the system of church. This is just what we do. This is what and I was talking to my cousin a couple of weeks back, and I was expressing this to him, and he said, well, what do you mean? What do you mean by churchy? What do you mean by that? And I said, well, here's what I mean. When you're sitting in church next Sunday, and he doesn't go to the same church as me. I said, when you're sitting in church, but I think this could be true of any church in America, sitting in church, make bullet points. Just make a note of every single thing you do from the moment you get out of your car in the parking lot to you walk in, you shake the greeter's hand, you talk to this guy over there, you get some coffee, you sit down, whatever, right? You sing the songs, you do this, write all that down. And then once you're done, later on that night, I want you to go through and read your Bible, and I want you to put a check mark by each one of those things that you find in Scripture.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. And it's become so ingrained in who we are as Christians now, churchians or whatever we want to call it, that nobody even knows the difference anymore. Like, if I went to somebody and I explained this to them, it's like, why is everybody so churchy? What are you talking about? This is Christianity. This is the Bible. This is what we do. This is what Christians do. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't see anywhere in Acts where Paul and Peter and James and all these people are doing what you're doing on a Sunday morning. I don't see it anywhere. Oh, but Ryan, it's so nice. It's so great. It's wonderful. Maybe it is, and again, this is just my struggle right now. I'm not standing on a hill saying I'm going to die on this hill and saying all you guys are wrong and stupid and I'm the right one and you guys need to conform to what I think. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not churchy enough. I don't know.
With that level of churchiness becomes less questioning of what's being taught and done and said.
Could be. Yeah, exactly. Right.
I mean, the more plugged in you get to the churchian system, the less you question what's being said in that same system.
Right. Yeah. And which can become a huge problem, because then churchiness starts to replace Christianity.
Correct.
Like and biblical Christianity
are more important than sound doctrine.
Yeah. But I mean, even then, I don't think a lot of people, at least the people close to me that I would talk to about this, would word it that way. I mean, because if I was to word it to that way, hey, are you interested in like actual biblical Christianity? Or you just like to get the warm and fuzzies at church? I don't think any of them would be like, oh, warm and fuzzies all the way, man. I don't want that Bible stuff. Give me some warm and fuzzies. Right. But it's like, I think they don't even realize what they're involved in. They're so used to it that it's just become commonplace, to where if I was to get up on stage in any church in this town, say the things I just said to you, I would be the outlier. I would be the one that people were booing. They would be like, dude, get this guy out of here. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. This guy's like, he's a heretic,
Right.
So, which is sad to me. You know,
it is sad, but you know, in that same vein, you got to limit what you say to non-believers just as much as you say to believers these days.
Right. Right. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Right,
even some of we just, very scratch the surface of certain things here, but I wouldn't tell anybody that I don't believe hell is eternal torment. It's in my circles because they're going to use that as an excuse. Well, maybe it's not a permanent thing. I can just skate through it. And
right. Hell's not that bad. I might as well live for me.
Mm-hmm.
As the term we used to use, whoop it up in the flesh. Right.
Yeah. Whoop it up in the flesh.
Oh. All right. Where else do we want to go, man? What's some other good topics here?
Well, I mean, I think we should be thrown out there. We've touched on it so much. You and I went through the path of the original languages.
We did.
Yeah. But I don't think it's been iterated enough how important that truly is, despite the shortcomings that can present.
Right.
I know that for me, I was in a spiritually immature time to have that level of knowledge. It was just being given to me. I didn't develop it on my own for a long time, and still going through that. But it's still vitally important,
Right.
It does bring on a level of arrogance. At least it did for me. It does bring on, a little bit of this judgmental attitude that I had towards other people.
Right.
They weren't willing to do that, but even just what the word love means. It's the definition of the three words we find in Scripture of love. Is so vastly important.
Yes.
Understanding things. I mean that. And,
yes.
And I think it was my brother even at one point used that as a negative. Well, just because there's three words for love in the Bible doesn't mean you need to learn Greek. Well, actually, that's a perfect example of why you do need to learn Greek.
Right. Yeah. It's hugely important. And
What does the word good mean? What does the word?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's huge, and that's just word definitions. You start getting into the actual crust of it.
Yes.
When you start getting into the tenses and all this stuff, and
yeah,
I tried diagramming for a very long time, and I just I could never break free of the English understanding of grammar to diagram correctly.
Right.
But even that was more fruitful than me sitting there and just studying and looking up word definitions.
Right.
Attempting diagramming was more spiritually productive in me than just looking up word definitions and studying that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's, unfortunately, in a lot of Christian circles, you talk about studying Greek or Hebrew or any of that. It's almost like a swear word, and back to some of the old Facebook, back when Facebook could be used as a fun forum to actually have real discussions.
Yeah.
Some of the discussions we got in, some of which the guy we've already mentioned, where he'd say things like, what are you telling me that Jesus spoke Greek? Or Jesus spoke Greek. Jesus didn't speak Greek. So therefore, why should we study Greek? You don't have to be that. And everybody gets all defensive. And I'm like, why is everybody getting so defensive? Like, here's the way it works. If I say, look, I've been studying Greek, and from what I'm studying, which by the way, sir, not in case you know that, you got to let them know. The New Testament was actually written in Greek originally, just so you know. So I've been studying that, and the conclusion I'm coming to is this. Now, at that moment, I'm open. If they come and say, well, actually, Ryan, I can see that it says something different. Let me show you why. I'll be like, oh, great, cool. I want to know the truth. I want to know what it says too. Let's figure this out together. But does that ever happen? No. You get things like, well, who do you think you study Greek? You think everybody needs to study Greek? What is this? You think everybody needs to study Greek? You're saying I can't be saved unless I study Greek? No, nobody questioned your salvation, dude. Calm down. Right. Nobody's saying you need to know Greek to be saved. Who said that?
Right.
Like, who even said that? Right?
Nobody.
You said that. Like, this guy says it. It's like, who says that? So, but it's like they get so defensive. And I think a big part of that is that they just don't want to put in the work.
Right. And what can be the most important work that we can do?
Right.
Especially if you got a family and children, they're being taught from somebody else. You have to be there.
Right. Yes, you do. You do, especially these days in the age of churchianity.
Yes.
Otherwise, what's going to happen? Your kids are going to grow up in the church, and they're going to turn out to be churchians, just like all these people that we can't stand. Say, I don't want my kids to be like that guy. So yeah, and and I think it's not only that. I think it's a biblical calling for us as husbands and fathers, and just men in society to study to make sure things are accurate, to make sure things are being said prop. You know what I mean? Like that's a big responsibility to have, you know?
Right. But nobody sees it that way. It's like, well, I found a church that I agree with and agrees with me. So
yeah,
I've done my due diligence.
Yeah, that's it. I found my place. I found my people.
Whatever they teach is gospel.
That's right. It's true. It's got to be true because I believe it.
Yeah.
Therefore, you know.
Therefore, yeah, they said what I already believe, so they got to be right.
Yeah, right. Exactly. You know,
or the one that gets me, I love this one because we're in a very spiritually dead area around here. But people still come up and hey, we go to a church, you know, that you would really like, but he teaches from the Greek. So he does. So they'll give me a CD to listen to or an MP3. And
yeah,
he'll use like word definitions. Well, this means this, and it's like doesn't even mean that. He's not teaching from the Greek. He's looking up words as he goes.
Yeah. And did you ever go to that pastor and say that?
What's that?
Like to go and say, hey, that's actually not what that word means, or that's not.
No, that was never there. I was never present. I mean, I would just hear a teaching that because I don't attend these churches around.
Oh, but hey, the Justin I used to know would have sent an email. You know, he'd have been like, all right.
I'd have called first. I'd rather talk than an email. Who's this jerk?
Yeah. Yeah. Who's this guy?
I've been doing this for 40 years. I know more than he does.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of funny because to go back in the early days, you remember it was, just before you had started out with Bill and I was out there and you were talking to another pastor in town, the Scheidbach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Remember?
Yeah.
And we were going back and forth through email and this and this. And I remember at one point it cracked me up because you responded and you said something like, oh, your pastor can beat up my pastor or something. I forgot exactly the way you worded it, you know, and it's just kind of a funny thing, but yeah, there's quote unquote Greek scholars everywhere, right? Everybody's a Greek scholar. Every pastor has gone through Bible school and they've taken a couple years of Greek and Hebrew and, but again, that is not what matters. Like, again, if I'm in a Bible study and somebody says, well, you know, I just want everybody to know that there's some Greek scholars that disagree with Ryan. Okay. Why do they disagree? Oh, we don't care. We don't care about that. Exactly. We just know that they disagree. That's all we need to know. That's all that matters.
What it's exactly.
Right.
And therein lies another trap for a lot of us. You know, people who maybe feel like they want to pursue it deeper. You can get caught up with these people like that. What was Pastor Justin something or other with Calvary that I used to email, and he would give me Greek stuff.
Alfred?
Yeah, Justin. Maybe was it Alfred? I still have the emails. I'll have to look it up now.
Yeah, I don't know.
But then you start getting to that same trap where you think that you're learning or hearing from somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yes. Right. And that's why I tell people, they say, Ryan, are you saying everybody needs to study Greek? No. What I'm saying is you have two options. You can either study for yourself and find out that's what it's saying, or you can trust wholeheartedly that the person who's telling you what it says is right.
Yeah.
Those are your two options. You know,
exactly
if you find somebody
has to, but I think everybody should.
Yeah, right. Or, I mean, if you find somebody who, let's say you go to a church for 5 years or something, and let's say when you show up, you're a skeptic. And the guy you're learning from is saying, oh, this is what the original language says. This is what the text means. And let's say for the first 5 years, you're just like, you're trying to prove him wrong. Mm-hmm. You're looking through, you're checking it out. You're testing it. Oh man, this guy's been right every time so far. I would say then, okay, fine. You can just listen to him now, right? Like he's proven himself, right? You know?
Right.
So it doesn't mean that everything he says is going to be like God. And you just need to take everything he says as gospel truth necessarily. Right. But, you know, I think there's an element of trust there that can be given to be like, okay,
agreed.
This guy has steered me right so far.
And it'll ferret itself out in your own personal studies, ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If the Lord's leading you, it'll definitely ferret itself out. So if you trust him in everything and he's wrong in one spot, well, you know.
Right.
Ultimately, that's going to.
Yeah. Assuming you're doing your own personal studies.
True. True. But then again,
it's also something we've lost these days. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, and again, you got denominations and you got all this kind of stuff. And that's why it's just, it really does boil down to what you said a minute ago of people just saying, you know, this is what I like. This is what I believe. Even you look at things like worship services, you know, some people are like, oh, you know, I just like a real kind of, kind of like a Baptist, just real mellow. Yeah, we'll sing some hymns and then we'll sit down, and that's just where I feel comfortable. Therefore, that's what's right for me.
Right.
And then another person says, I like the ones better where people are flopping around on the ground and they're full of the Holy Spirit and they're barking like dogs because the Holy Spirit made them a dog that day. And, this is just what we're doing. And that's where I feel comfortable. That's where I can express myself in the way that God wants me to. And I'm just like, none of it. I mean, even the Baptist version I just said, is any of that in the Bible?
Right.
Where in the Bible does it describe, this is what a worship service should look like?
Mm-hmm.
You know why it doesn't say that? Because they didn't have those.
I didn't have them.
Exactly. But Ryan, they sang praises to the Lord. Sure they did. I got no problem singing praise to the Lord. I do it all the time. I'll be in the shower by myself, sing praise to the Lord. Yep. I'll be walking through the grocery store, whistling a praise to the Lord. Whatever. Fine. But all these
stoned for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But it's like all these elements that go into this idea of, well, this is a structure that we just do. We have this service and we sing for 35 minutes before the sermon every week. And we all do the hands and we do we close our eyes and we're just so enraptured in this, this experience. And it's just, like you and I both, when we went to that church years ago, remember, I don't know if you remember, there was a lady that would literally go there just for the worship service and she would leave.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't care about the sermon. I don't care about God's word. I just got to get that shot of that Holy Spirit power,
Exactly. Get a little crazy.
Oh man.
And I struggle with that to this day. I still struggle with the worship services and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even more so than I did,
Yeah. Yeah, I do too.
But then I struggle with scripture more than I used to too.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I'm not trying to draw. I know I sound like I am, but I'm not really trying to draw a definitive line with that because yes, I struggle with it. I struggle with the worship service, but does that mean that I'm right? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to be.
That's what I think often. I think.
Yeah.
A lot of that.
Right.
I mean.
Right.
A lot of it, I think I am wrong.
Right. But then I start examining motives and I can examine my own motives. It's hard for me to examine other people's motives, but I do. In my own mind, I question that. And I'm like, well, why are you doing that? Like, really, why are you doing that? Or why am I not doing that? Like, might be a question I ask myself. Am I not as spiritual as this guy next to me who's dancing around in a circle with waving his hands in the air? Does he have some kind of part of the spirit I don't have? Maybe. I mean, it's not like I'm Mr. On fire for the Lord and I just got this wonderful relationship with the Lord. Like, oh man, I'm the best. I'm the best Christian you'll ever meet. It's just like not even close, So, but yeah, it's definitely a struggle. So
yeah, I've been emotionally caught up with worship music before just because of the music.
Yeah.
And typically I don't. I mean, I'm that guy that's not really getting moved by the Spirit when we're singing songs as a congregation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. Right.
And a lot of times I wonder, am I hindering something here? Is it just me or?
Yeah. Yeah. But see, how can you know that? Right. When the whole litmus test is, well, how do you feel? Well, I mean, what emotions are going through you? That's always what you're asked.
Right.
Well, I mean, how do you feel when you're worshiping the Lord? Do you feel good? Does it make you feel good? Well, yeah. Whether the answer to that is yes or no is irrelevant to whether or not it's what I should be doing. You see what I'm saying? So when you have no scripture to back up or to compare it to,
correct.
All you have is feelings. All you have is thoughts. All you have is what you think, or what you feel.
And that's so subjective that, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, all right. Well, now that I've said a lot of things that might get me kicked out of my church, any other last things you want to talk about before we sign off?
I can't think of anything. I mean, there's a lot we didn't cover, but we could go on for days with all this.
We could. I mean, this could be like a 14-hour episode, if,
I imagine it's the case for most of the people you talk to, though.
It is. There's a lot of them, yeah. So some of them, not so much. Some of them, it's like, I find myself, there's only been a few that I feel like I'm really just trying to pull some. It's like, hey, okay, ask a question. There's like a 1 or 2 word answer, and then they're just staring at me. It's like, okay, next.
For 6 hours to get 3 hours of material.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but it's just, everybody's different. And I get that, it's not always easy, especially I understand for people that don't even know me. Like, I mean, I've had people I just met right when they walk into my door and they're literally sitting across the table from an absolute stranger. and being asked to talk about things that are very controversial and deep,
Right.
That's not easy. I mean, it's easy for me. I could do it. I could go sit next and go to Panera, meet somebody right now and be, hey, let's talk about everything,
Yeah.
but for some people it's not. So,
Got it.
but yeah,
I get it.
you're one of the ones that I think we could talk for days, but
Yeah. We have before. So
we have, and we will
quick
continue to
question
do
for you,
so.
whether on air or not is up to you, but just a question I've been dealing with lately.
Yeah.
Read scripture, and this has been going on for years now.
Okay.
Is you read scripture, and you read in Acts, and they say the face of Stephen turned into an angel.
Yeah.
I was like, well, who saw that?
Yeah.
Who saw that and said and reported it? But even more so, as you like John and some of these places, John says they went to Bethsaida, which is by this, and then they did this, which is translated to mean that.
Yeah.
And he's like, who is he talking to? Who's his audience who doesn't know Greek or Hebrew already?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Why did you got to tell me how this is translated?
Right.
Who is he writing to? It just seems very odd when you start reading things like that. It goes throughout a lot of scripture.
Sure.
And it's kind of been a weird struggle for me lately because I'm like,
yeah, I mean, unless we kind of, which I know you hold this view that, God divinely wrote the scriptures through men. He divinely had them collected the way they were for the canon and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of times where guys were writing stuff, they don't even know why they wrote it. I mean, I think they were,
yeah, I get that. And maybe this story came to him, but when John says Jesus, they call Jesus rabbi, which means teacher.
Right.
Okay. Who is that for? I mean,
it's for you. It's for you because you didn't know that. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like if God was divinely like orchestrating scripture to say, okay, I know thousands of years from now, there's going to be people reading this and growing in this that don't know these languages. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's, again, will we ever know for sure the answer to that? No. Maybe if we ask God someday, but, because I don't think the scriptures tell us that, but I think that's a pretty decent explanation.
Yeah. You'll start noticing it now. You'll be like, hey, that is weird.
I will. It's going to throw me off. I'll be calling you at 2 a.m. Dude, what did you do to me? I can't sleep now. Yeah. So I don't know, man. That's a good point, but yeah, I don't know.
All right, buddy. Well,
I'm glad I could spiritually edify you.
That was the best times we ever had, is with the I don't knows.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, dude. So much fun. That was a blast. Do you remember that guy that came out and that met? I think he did meet us also at the donut shop. The older guy that was what the heck was his name? He started meeting us there, and then he ended up out at church in Sisquoc a couple times.
Oh, John Nave?
Yes, that guy.
Yeah.
And he came to my house that one time for the Bible study that I was having in my house when I lived over on Hemlock. Yeah, dude, that guy, that was a trip. That was a cool time too, because I felt like that was a time of testing for us.
Correct. I agree.
We had a false teacher in our midst.
Because we had to go down and really pin things down to make sure that,
Yeah. That he was having
first, and I was on the John Nave bus at first. I was like,
of course.
Huh?
Yeah, he sounded dead on, dude. He sounded dead on. Yeah.
Then he started getting some of his core beliefs started coming out. I was like,
he didn't believe in that there was a Holy Spirit or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was having those tent meetings in his backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That guy was a trip, dude. Yeah. And I remember he would always try to, when the couple times he met Bill, he was like, oh, you've just done such a great job with these guys. I mean, these guys, you've really done a good job on these guys. And Bill's always like, I didn't do nothing. Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, we're growing in the Lord together. We're studying the word. Yeah. I'm teaching him the word, but it was just funny. So many awesome. Again, back to the Golden Donut Bible Fellowship.
Yep. That was the divine.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know what? You need to start telling people, because I'm hearing this all the time now. This is something you need to put at the end of every podcast you do, no matter what the format, whether it's this one, your new version. Christians need to stop telling people there's a cashless society coming, because the Bible doesn't say that.
Yeah.
We don't spend eternity in heaven. I'm so tired of hearing this. My pet peeve. So let's sign off on that note. Stop it.
Eternity in heaven? So you don't believe in eternal heaven either?
We don't spend eternity in heaven. We spend eternity on earth with Jesus.
Oh, Well, what's heaven then? I thought Earth is the new heaven.
There's a new heaven and a new earth.
Oh,
So we spend eternity on earth.
interesting. But it's a new Earth.
The new earth, yes.
Yeah, it's not the one with people crapping on the sidewalks.
No, the needles and everything. The Heaven Needle Exchange Program.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh,
I'm just
boy.
kidding about that stuff.
No, it's that I like I said, that whole thing with heaven, hell, eternity, all that stuff. It never makes any. A lot of it is really unknown to me. I don't get it. I don't understand.
I don't purport to know any of it.
Yeah, I don't know what the heaven mean. I don't know what heaven means really. I don't know what streets of gold and yeah, new earth, new heavens. What does that even mean? Why after all that is good, and why after the reign of Christ of 1,000 years on earth, that's the heavenly realm or whatever, then they let Satan out for a little while. For why? Like, what's the purpose of that? Like, none of it makes any sense to me. It's really frustrating. But those are those verses. I just have to say, well,
I don't know.
I hope I'll know someday, but
exactly. I hope
not now, not at the moment. So, all right, man. Well, thanks. This has been awesome. This is fun stuff, dude. Yes, it's always good talking to you. So
nice catching up.
It's just now we get to share it with the world. All 20 people that listen to my podcast.
Oh, you froze.
Did I freeze really at the very end? I froze again.
On my end, you did anyway.
Okay, so I'm back now.
You're back now.
All right, I'm back now. All right, well, let's go another couple hours then.
All right. All right, buddy.
All right, man. Have a good time. See ya. I hope today's discussion made you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. Please send me feedback at whycan'twetalkaboutthat@proton.me. Please tell all your friends about this podcast and let me know if you know anyone who might like to be a guest. Thanks. Here's just a glimpse of what next week's episode will sound like.
So I have a lot of different stories, but this one was the most special to me. Both of my grandmas had passed, and I remember I was in bed and I was coming out of being asleep.
Okay.
And it was the stage where I was fully present. Like I wasn't asleep.
Right.
But I wasn't awake. And I felt something like if you're laying in bed and when someone sits on the bed, you feel that pressure. And
right.
You feel like something holding my legs down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
About how old are you at this point?
Oh, this was like 5 years ago.
Oh, okay. Wow. Pretty recent.
And mind you, like my life at that time was very stressful and like a lot of hard, difficult things I was going through. And so like I think I was more receptive to something coming through, but like I could feel my mom's mom sitting on the bed and she was rubbing my leg and I could feel it.
And you knew specifically it was that grandmother.
I knew it was them.
Okay.
She did that to me when she was alive.
Oh,
so
okay.
it was like a thing.
It was what she was doing.
It was what she was doing.
Okay.
And I could hear her, and I knew it was them because I could hear them talking. They were talking in Spanish, so I didn't really understand like what they were saying.
You don't speak Spanish?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay. What the heck was that?
Of course, you come in.
FlexJobs is the #1 job site to find remote work.
I was playing this, waiting for you to come back.
Oh.
Never mind. I was playing the Jeopardy theme.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, but as soon as you sat down, it went off. It ended.
Oh, that's perfect timing then, right? I got in with the right time frame there.
Right. Was it recording at least?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll hear it then.
Yeah, I'll hear it when I go back and.
Yeah.
But what I've been doing, thanks to you, because you gave me the idea about when you said, "Oh, you should put that part where I come into the room and you tell Cameron to tell me to shut up. You should put that as a hidden track on the episode." And I don't know if you heard it, but I did. So it's on the very end of that, like after all is said and done, and it's like, oh, next week on, and
Oh,
it shows
yeah,
the
yeah,
clip.